And we are back with the pod crash. It's our 13th podcast today. And
Unlucky for some.
Yeah, and we are here with the Huub Wattbike boys, Dan Bigham and Jonny Wale.
Bigham as well, no N, just to correct everyone in previous podcasts. No N.
Is that a common mistake?
Depends if it's intentional or not.
Yeah. So, guys, are you able to lead just a quick little introduction as to who you both are for the listeners who aren't aware of who you are?
Should we introduce each other?
Yeah, that'd be much better.
This is Jonny Wale. He's never finished a team pursuit.
That's not true. I finished Bucks 2015.
Yeah. Can't ride more than a kilo-ish. And he rides in circles, and that's about it, really. Not much else to him. Suppose he's a chef. Never seen him cook. Never made
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
Fake news.
So you weren't a chef?
No, he is a chef.
No, I'm not.
He doesn't want to be a chef?
No.
Michelin starred.
Michelin?
No. That's not how it works. You have to pay for this,
You have to pay for a Michelin star chef?
apparently.
Oh,
That's
right, okay.
that is one way to get one.
So you're basically saying you would have been if you had the funds?
No.
Oh, okay. Would you like to introduce Dan?
This is Dan Bigham, a.k.a. Piggy, a.k.a. the Raptor. Quick one on the Raptor. When Dan
Yes,
was
please.
14? So when Dan was 14, he decided to call himself the Raptor.
Oh, you can't give yourself nicknames.
I didn't. As in, Dan the Raptor Bigham was his Facebook name.
Ryan Owens gave himself a nickname.
Yeah,
The
he
Rhino.
denies it. Yeah, the Rhino.
Did he make that up?
And,
He made-
he's
yeah.
also got a customized phone case which he bought for himself to put on the back of his iPhone, which is a picture of a rhino on a bicycle.
Yeah.
Oh, bless
No,
him.
I wouldn't do that.
But yes, anyway, so
Have done before.
14-year-old Dan Bigham, the Raptor. So you can imagine it sort of fades away by 15, 16. No, 25-year-old Dan Bigham is still going by
It's sticking around.
the Raptor. But yeah, he's responsible for sucking the fun out of cycling.
Ooh, controversial statement, which I'm sure we'll get to later. Talking of controversy, our last podcast created some.
Yeah,
Some people weren't happy.
yeah. You had a DM, didn't you?
I had a DM. Or some people were happy. Some people said it's nice to hear some honest opinions about the state of the British scene. We're trying to do balance now. We've realised we've got to the limit of our journalistic abilities, so we have to put in allegedly at the beginning of everything, and we have to get the balance out. So, in the sake of balance, Dan's got some points to bring up on a few of the issues that the boys brought up last time. He's going to be far more articulate than I am. But the gist was they kind of said that the British scene was suffering, Nationals was really badly organised.
And on Sunday, Beaumont Trophy had a few issues as well.
Yeah, tractor or something.
Tractorgate.
Tractor.
I was on the right side of the split, so I'm not complaining. But yeah, Nationals was an interesting one. There was a lot of the points that were...
Because you actually tweeted about Nationals not being that great.
Yeah, I called out for what it was.
Mm.
And then, yeah, got a
That's
reply.
awfully unlike you, Daniel.
Bit of a wallflower normally.
I'm very, yeah.
Anyway,
So,
sorry, Callum.
yeah, National. So, well, I was there for the whole week before, and there was barely any sort of exposure, coverage, advertisement, posters, zilcho. So, if you wanted to come watch the time trial, you had no idea it was on. There was something like some random caravan festival that had better advertisement locally. So, yeah, I was pretty disappointed on that. Called it out for what it was on Twitter. We were literally at the finish line 2 days before, and there wasn't a single British cycling thing anywhere, which is pretty poor, I'd say, for national champs. And actually, yeah, you criticise British cycling for a lot of these things, but actually they're not the organisers. It's Glasgow, so they appoint an organiser for each national champ. So each year it changes or can change. I think last year it was the same organiser of the Beaumont Trophy. I can't remember his name actually, which is really bad. But either way, so some nationals can be great, some nationals not so, and it's not down to BC and what they do. It's who they appoint and how they're doing it. So that's why they're going around asking for feedback on how nationals did go and what people's thoughts are on to improve it, because they're passing that back on to the organiser. So, yeah, people slate BC, but in actual fact...
I guess one of the arguments was that BC were running it as a sportif to kind of make it cheaper to run, because their kind of sportifs and their mass participation events are funded by HSBC, and then that gets all the road closures done, that gets all the signage done, and then Nationals was jumping on the back of that. So there must have been a bit of influence from them.
That's absolutely how it has to go, though. That's the way money's coming into cycling now, because, yeah, we don't have the money from massive big commercial sponsors other than HSBC UK, and at the end of the day, that's what funds it. Money comes in, sportifs and Go Ride and all that kind of stuff brings big cash in. That means big events that do cost a lot of money. So rolling road closures and the escort groups and police and all the traffic management, all that kind of stuff costs a lot of cash. We'll probably get onto the coverage side of stuff. It was I think the minimum quote was 160k to have live coverage, and like that money just doesn't appear out of nowhere. Whereas the way they did it was actually really innovative, but not many people really realised that they were using 4G rather than typically they have outrider motorbikes, helicopter, lots of other crazy stuff.
Yeah, they have like 3-4 helicopters and then a plane, then another plane which beams it back down, which is a heavy investment. But I guess like, to see that innovation, I thought was actually quite interesting, because women's cycling often faces a lack of coverage, which inhibits the sport to grow. So to bring in 4G seemed like a good idea, but it didn't work out that well.
Yeah, Norfolk doesn't have great 4G coverage, and maybe 5G, that's something that's going to solve it, or at least in better parts of the country you're going to have better coverage, and 4G can make live coverage a lot cheaper and easier to do. At least let's hope so anyway.
So I guess one of the other points that were made was that Nationals is getting worse and not getting better. I guess like it's like Nationals is consistently a bit of a shit show. Would you go with that, given that you've ridden a couple?
Shit show in which way? Is in
I
like
guess
quality
so, like,
of riders?
I guess one of their major points was that they got lost at one point.
Well, I didn't. I rode the course, so, and I was just up the road by about 30 seconds by that point, so it was all fine. But
It's a lucky break, though, I think.
I was in the right move. I think at the end of the day, it's still down to the rider to know the course. And yeah, the signage was sportive, but it was a different colour to what the road race was. I think it was purple and yellow. And I'd ridden basically every part of the course in the previous month. And then, again, same in that week, that it was pretty obvious if you followed the GPX file that you could get from British Cycling or Galazzo and look at the course map, you're not going to go wrong. But if you've not ridden the course and you're just winging it and following wherever the hell you think you should go, then, yeah, that's your fault.
And I guess one of the other points of contention in this facility, but actually to explain where we are for the viewers on YouTube, within Huub Wattbike's kind of accommodation facility, you could say.
The manor.
The manor, yes.
The capital of Barbados.
It is, yes. Also shared with some students that I was interested
They've
to know.
also got
and
a zoo.
peacocks.
And a zoo, yeah.
Well, I don't think it's a zoo, is it?
Yeah. We've
it's a
got wallabies, meerkats, alpacas,
Goats.
goats,
Pygmy goats, which are like goats but smaller.
chameleons,
Oh, cute.
snakes,
Lovely.
giant rabbits, take your pick.
Hamsters.
Everything. Hamsters, yeah. Lots of them.
But anyway, so one of the points that came out that was slightly controversial under this building, which reminds me a bit of the Fallowfield days when we first moved to British Cycling. But anyway, so Adam Blythe made and a few of the other boys actually probably said a little piece about how there's always an element of luck involved in nationals, and that maybe John benefited from a little bit of that kind of lucky streak, I guess. Is that something you go with, or do you see racing more of a kind of clinical thing and less of an art, I guess?
Well, road race definitely is not a time trial, that's for sure. So it's not just the fastest guy is going to win. There is definite elements of skill and luck and where you place yourself. But equally, it still comes down to where you spend your pennies. And John was really pretty switched on about it. I thought it was going to split up in the crosswinds, as did a lot of the guys. I think Lawless was in that first move for the exact same reason. Of we thought we get to Cromer, pure crosswinds, it'll split, strong guys will come over, races run. Didn't work out like that. John spent 3 hours doing literally nothing. His average power for like the first 3 hours like 230 or something ridiculously easy for him. It's like zone 1. And then at the back end of the race, shock horror, all the guys who are basically big threshold monsters and pretty aero. Ben Swift, Stannard, Dowsett, Archibald, pretty much some of the best time trialists, so probably the highest critical power to CDA ratios for nerd drop there in the UK, unsurprisingly made it to the finish in the front group.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
yeah, there probably is a factor of luck, but I'd say strongest guys made it there.
Yeah. Okay. So they made it happen. They had to be in the move and made it happen.
Yeah, well, Stannard did exactly that. 90k to go, thought, you know what, I'm out of here. Went up the road solo.
I love Stannard. It's like it's time to do my thing, and he just switches it on. it's like a light switch.
Oh, when he went, it was just like, why are you attacking now? Everyone's still riding, still put time in, but yeah, it is what it is.
No, for sure. And then I guess the final point on the last podcast controversy was about the standard of riders that get to come, and that there's a qualification system in order to get there in the first place. And that maybe that means that some people miss out. Was that one of the points?
I think the qualification system was for the Tour of Britain.
Okay.
That they have to race all these.
It was still a comment on the British racing scene, though, as being something that was to its detriment and not to its...
Yeah, it's something that's been a big talking point was for a good while now since the system came in for Tour of Britain. And I think now it's come to a point, and British Cycling are pretty adamant that they're going to change that going forward because it doesn't work and it does destroy the scene. Makes racing really weird. In that, I think one of the guys on the podcast last week made a good point that effectively if everyone's represented with one guy, they'll happily let it go, even if that guy totally doesn't suit the course. It's just, it's all fine, let it go. For us, it's less of an issue even though we can qualify for Tour of Britain, we're not trying to because effectively it's probably out of reach for us this year. We don't have that one big hitter, as it were. We're sort of homegrown talent within Ribble and probably aren't at the level to go and ride that. So we're just going out there and trying to get a good result. But it does mean, the racing's quite odd in a way. It's not a typical race that you would probably get on the continent. It's just...
So your kind of take on the whole scene sounds a little bit more optimistic than what we heard last week. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's me through and through in general.
But that's even despite Madison leaving next year, JLT going the year before, things like that. I think a lot of people are quite critical about the scene being in a bad place.
Yeah, who's to blame? If blame should be apportioned, who knows? Like, is it down to, could you say it's BC and they haven't created an environment that means sponsors are coming in? Is it down to teams not giving return on investment? Is it just cycling's not on a boom, as it says? Is it people actually just enjoy the sportif and the go rides and that kind of stuff and the social aspect more? Is racing where people want to be riding their bikes? There's like a lot of factors in it that there is to play, and I think the teams that probably do provide return on investment, their sponsors, are probably the ones that are going to survive, and BC seem to be at least starting to understand that things haven't been right. It's a shame because, there's a big downturn in events. There's not the national Bs getting the attendance they should do. There isn't the national A crits are disappearing off because the organisers aren't getting the support they want from BC. So, it's not a great state, that's for sure, but hopefully it does sort itself out.
Well, thanks for that. We saved ourselves from a massive libel suit there by getting some balance on the podcast there. So thank you. Have you got any news before we conclude the news?
No, I've just been back.
Is your hip okay this time?
My hip is fine. Back in the gym. Trying to lift heavy again.
So what you're trying to say is, as usual, you have no news?
No, I'm a full-time athlete, Callum.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Have you ridden outside this week?
No.
You've got a nice tan, though. You must have been outside at some point.
Yeah, we've been to Teton, so the sun was shining out there quite a lot.
Oh.
So, got a bit of a tan out there. Managed to go the first round, or didn't even qualify, so I just sat in the sun in my skin suit. Get the tan lines going.
Olympic gold medalist didn't qualify.
No.
That's
what happens when you periodize your training and you do gym for 2 months.
Sounds like fake news. John was in the gym for about 8 weeks now, and he's still got 2 medals at nationals.
But no, the gym. We were talking about this in the car on the way down. The gym absolutely kills you if you go for a proper strength block.
I don't think it kills John in the same way that it kills.
No,
can't hurt himself.
Yeah, it's like it kills you.
Yeah,
like semi kills me.
It's like if you're more on the fast twitch side,
Yeah.
I think you can hurt yourself a lot more. Like John can probably do a flying 200.
So
yeah, John can probably do a flying 200 and doesn't hurt him at all. Where we just can get everything out
the next 2K.
But that's an endurance myth.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I've got a rest day, but I've got to go into the gym. I'm like, that doesn't add up to me. I don't know. That's not the rest.
Is that just BC? I think the car rest days.
I think that's a BC
BC
thing.
do gym anymore?
Yeah.
What, in the endurance team?
Yeah.
Actual gym?
I call it core, but yeah.
Strong difference.
Yes,
Ready,
exactly.
Cordy et al.
Yes,
Proper
exactly.
Mm.
So let's delve into the past a little bit and the story and things like that. So Dan, I guess you're quite famous for coming on the scene in nationals, picking up a few titles, and then that grew into being the team that we know it today. So can you kind of talk us through that a little bit? Because I guess for me, being in the British team at the time, it was quite a surprise to see you kind of come through. So it'd be good to know a little bit of the history before that.
Before that, there wasn't a great deal before that, really. I finished uni 2015, got a job with British Athletics pretty much straight after. Was working with all the top sprinters there, trying to make them go faster. At the end of about 6 months into that, so end of 2015, 2016.
So from an aerodynamics angle with the 100 meter
it was just performance engineering. So I'd done my undergrad in motorsport engineering. I'd worked for a year at Mercedes AMG as an aero. I'd gone back to do my masters, focused more on cycle sport aero and auto lights.
Got some technical difficulties.
It's okay. We'll keep going. We'll keep
roll with it. So went back, finished my masters, got a job that didn't even think I wanted, but my mate convinced me I did. I got a job offer the week after. So I worked with British Athletics on the performance side. It was mostly everything software, hardware, data analysis, all the nerdy kind of things for about 6 months. And then got an offer to ride with what was then Planet X North side for a year, which is the elite national team. That was 2016. Charlie was riding for us that year, so we just thought, let's have a go at the individual pursuit. I was only living about 45 minutes away in Stafford, so I was commuting here. Charlie was coming down from Stockton, and we were just having a go. I knew Jonny from uni. I'd actually got him DQ'd when he won Buck's team time trial, like 5 years ago.
Team time trial, Jonny Wale.
Yeah,
well, it's good to know you can still be friends, because I DQ'd myself when I pushed Kean and Maddie off the track at Junior Nationals once. And and that was seen as a big deal. But it's all fine now. But talking about the athletics bit, like I always think of that as being quite an old school sport, and there maybe not being much potential to because it's just running at the end of the day. Like where did you find
It's just cycling, isn't it?
No, but compared to cycling, you can get as techie about it as you want. Like it seems like it's a bit of a dark arts, and the sky's the limit a little bit. Like where did you find the gains in athletics out of interest?
I guess the good thing with athletics is so many different disciplines in there. It's not just like cycling is either riding really fast or quite fast or whatever. It's just a variance of speed. Whereas in that you've got totally different events. So whether it's sprinting, long jump, high jump, javelin, whatever. There's so many different things to look at. I mean, the one that was interesting to me was hammer throw, because actually it's quite an aero dominant sport, which sounds a bit weird, but you're quite open in the regulations on how you can design a hammer, and we did like optimization simulations and lots of things around the construction of a hammer, which is quite interesting there. And then with the sprint guys, it was actually just data logging and data analysis, like velocity profiles, force profiles in 3-axis on the start blocks, contact times, high speed cameras, basically pulling all of them together and then allowing the coach to see what was happening.
So what was the attraction of cycling? Was that because there was more of that kind of nectar in there in terms of stuff to fiddle with?
Oh yeah, massively. So it was actually when I was back at Mercedes that I got into cycling. A guy called Simon Smart, who people probably know, Envy, Endura, who else did he do? Scott Bikes. Track Zero. Well, of course, it's his company. He convinced me to go down the cycling route, and I went back to uni and basically convinced my lecturers to do all my motorsport projects on cycling.
Okay.
So the working athletics was kind of on the side of that, but cycling was progressing naturally. Got the ride for elite national team, and then just kept pushing on and thought I'd have a go at the track.
But have you been cycling all your life then?
No, my first year was 2011, 2012. Just got it to commute to uni, so it was like 40 minutes on the bus or like 20 minutes on the bike.
And you'd be how old would you be then?
Would have been then 19, 20.
Okay. I think that's one of the positive things about cycling.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who come to it quite late, and they're still able to be pretty successful in the sport. But coming into cycling with a kind of fresh attitude comes with a few different kind of either knockbacks or adulation, I guess. So it's like the classic one that everyone knows is Chris Boardman, Graham Woodley kind of thing. Chris Boardman's seen as the kind of legitimate challenger, whereas Graham Woodley was seen as this nutter who was taking apart a washing machine and coming at it with a completely different approach. In those early days when you were coming into cycling and you were maybe questioning everything, I guess, which is where you were at, like, did you find it a deceptive place, or did you find it quite a traditionally centered sport?
Oh, wholly centered. It was just the dogma of it's always been done this way, and everybody you spoke to was like, oh, no, you can't do that, you can't do this. No, you need to spin and you need to do this. And it was like, but why? And no one can tell you why. No one has a scientifically based objective answer. It's just, we've always done this for like 30 years. Like, well, it's not a reason to do anything, is it?
Do you think there's still space for that methodology sometimes? Because I think cycling at its highest performance is a kind of mixture of like art and science. Like there's some bits that we've always done and seems to work, and no one can really apply a scientific basis as to why it seems to work, I guess. Do you think there's a balance in there, or you completely kind of question everything?
I think you should question everything.
Okay.
And I think the things that are art are just things that aren't understood from a scientific perspective yet, but that's not to say it won't be in the future. So you need to keep probing and asking those questions to figure out why those things work, because you can't question some things do work. And over time, 20, 30, 40 years, it's a bit of evolution that you understand that X, Y, and Z works to get result A, B, and C.
Yeah.
But at some point, science is going to start to understand those unknowns or arts or whatever you want to call them, and at that point, then you can start to put a number on it and start to improve those unknowns to be even better.
So in a way, do you feel almost kind of better off having come into the sport quite late? Because I guess if you come in as a kid, like I don't know, when I was moving up the GV system, it was always kind of dictated to you how stuff was done, and you never really got a chance to question anything really until you had a medal around your neck. And maybe like kids are quite influenceable anyway. Like it's difficult to back up an argument as a young cyclist or whatever like that. Do you feel a little bit of a benefit for having come into the sport a little bit later?
Massively so. I think if I'd come to the sport before I got to university, I would have had a totally different mindset and probably been a whole lot less inquisitive, or I guess questioning in general. And it's probably got me on the wrong side of a few people for asking questions, but I'm always wanting to be justified in what I do, and rather than just do it because someone tells me to. If they can support their reasons behind it and it's got good sound logic behind, then I'll go for it. If not, then sorry, there's no reason to do anything. And I think I'm in a better situation because of that. We wouldn't have this team in this situation if we weren't sitting here going, well, why?
Mm.
But yeah, if I was 16, 17 starting cycling, then would have been a whole lot different, I imagine.
So, Jonny, you came to the sport a little bit later as well, did you? Could we hear a little bit about your background?
Yeah, it's not as interesting as Dan. I didn't do Formula 1, didn't do British Athletics.
I don't think he's done Formula 1. I don't think that's
No,
a
he
fair
did, he
comparison.
did
Did it real hard.
he-
I used to fall asleep in the wind tunnel, actually.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I got a nickname Sleep. Johnny bumped into a few of the Mercedes guys at a track day, I don't know, 6 months ago.
Made my day.
And they were like, oh, you live with Dan. You sleepy
It's like,
Dan.
Sleepy Dan.
Just random one. You guys ever heard Dan Bigham? They had a little field day. So stories from Dan at Mercedes. Apparently you mackaged your back or something doing jump squats in the Smith machine or something.
Yeah, jump scots and stuff.
Never
Yeah.
jump in a Smith machine. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, you used to fall asleep in the wind tunnel.
Literally
Which is,
in the wind tunnel.
In the wind
Oh,
tunnel.
right, wow.
Yeah.
Well, they run 24 hours a day. being
Yeah, they
like-
work you guys pretty hard, don't they?
Yeah, they don't care. Social lives gone. And if you leave the office at 5:30, like, game over.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
right.
So that's
So
why
I did
Dan's-
that a few times.
He did
Okay.
it. Box ticked.
Yeah,
You can mention it in every interview for the rest of your life.
that's very true.
That's what all about.
But yeah, so
That was
so
easy.
despite your accent, you grew up in Scotland as well.
Yeah, I grew up in Scotland. I can put an accent on if you like, but
I'll give it a go.
It comes every now and again. It's an organic thing.
Oh, right, okay. We'll see if it comes in at any point.
Yeah, but I mean, Dan comes from a more sort of analytical background, and I suppose it's the beauty and the magic that is Huub Wattbike is that all of us have our own little background. So I come from a more sort of traditional background in cycling, where it's like I do it for the the pure joy of it and all the cliche stories. And I'm sorry.
That's all right.
But yes, then Dan wanted me to do. I didn't really like racing. I don't like racing. I don't get any enjoyment out of it.
That's
Doesn't,
not that's not uncommon.
Yeah, it doesn't really mean much. But I like the process and the
Okay.
doing it as a team. I enjoy that. But who
I think
finished?
that emotional element is something that comes out really interesting in you guys' documentary, which we'll probably touch on later. But you said like how much it meant to you to be part of a group that were kind of united in a cause as well. So
Yeah. I mean, it's I mean, quite a lot of people know or don't know that I've have my own mental health issues. I've had a couple of suicide attempts in the past, and done all sorts of like therapies and treatments and X, Y, and Z. But turns out what you need is you need to find 3 mates and have a joint cause and put everything towards it. And
that's interesting because Ed
Yeah.
Clancy's solution is to lock himself in his basement for a couple of days at a time.
he's got Mr. Boris. So
Yeah, he does.
He's got
does.
company.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not the most talkative cat in the world, but yeah.
No, he's quite happy to just
Mm.
lock himself in with Boris and watch TV or play PlayStation.
So that genuinely kind of gave you solace, I guess. It was getting away from. It wasn't the treatments or anything else. It was being part of a team and a united
Yeah, well,
cause.
it's just being feeling that you have a purpose in life is a good one. It's something to focus for and address. It's a shame the UCI have taken it away from me.
We'll get to that later. That's very topical.
Cheers, guys.
So Dan, you had that amazing nationals, burst onto the scene.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Say we, it was team effort.
No. I mean the first one, you were in the black skin suit.
I did.
yeah,
I did a
yeah.
change
That's
in
it.
that one.
Did you?
Yeah, did a change.
Johnny
Okay,
had
so-
2 turns.
I did 2 turns.
Okay.
Actually, you've done that since I was next nationals.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
Let's let's not expose Phil and I's severe lack of knowledge in the cycling world.
Mhm.
You both had an amazing nationals.
Thank you very much. That
Yeah,
was
no
great.
worries. But at that point, you guys were in plain skin suits. There wasn't really a team formation, I guess. When did the
Mhm.
team kind of birth? Was it birthed after that?
Well, our first session as a group of 4 was like 4 weeks before that. We
Yeah,
did
it's 4 weeks
4:25, and we only got 2 across the line. Me and Charlie, and then obviously we were trying to get Tipper over
That's
the line.
it's a running trend in the team getting 2 across the
Yeah,
line.
fucking hell, great fun. Then like we did a standing 4K every week. All
Well,
the way to
this is
nationals.
we talk about being raw and organic for cycling. It's we were like, how do you train for cycling? It's like, well, just a 4-minute effort, really, isn't it? So we'll just whack
do
a few
lots
of
of
those.
standing 4K.
So genuinely, for 4 weeks, the training was we do standing 4K, then we do a second standing 4K like 20 minutes later, and then we're like, you know what, we're fucked now. We can't do another standing 4K. We'll do a flying 4K.
what kind of times did you do in training when you did
So yeah,
these?
it's 4:25. I've got a graphic somewhere. It was like 4:25, 4:18, 4:12, 4:04 in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah,
Good
it's not bad.
improvement.
Were you really coming into it in the nicest way possible, like that blind? I guess it was basically like there was no like old man at the side of the track who might offer you a few pointers in team pursuit, or did you just completely disregard that?
definitely
Jeff,
existed.
Jeff Cook was back there.
Jeff
he's
Cook,
I love Jeff.
he's
Cook.
famously old man. Like if you ever want enthusiasm at a track, you want him.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of that, and I think you take it with more than a pinch of salt. It was like, yeah, I don't believe that. So there's a lot of stuff we did develop there. So yeah, we picked up some quick skin suits, did a lot on positioning, drivetrain.
We got the socks the day before.
day of, morning of.
Yeah. I remember stealing some Mavic discs off people.
Mm.
Back, like, literally, like, guys, we've got a final in, like, 20 minutes. Do you mind if I borrow these wheels?
And the answer's like, no.
It's
you
like,
don't
oh.
care. I'm having it anyway.
It's like, I don't even know who it was. I think it was like some girl just finished her 500. And I literally, like, she was, like, coming off the track, and I just grabbed a bike and
It's the
took
Derby
wheels off
girl.
her.
I've forgotten her name now. But yeah. Basically, just everything
very
was
much.
pretty raw. Just whip it and do what we can. And we had a good understanding still of like longer turns was probably the way to go because it protected tipper a lot more. But we hadn't really figured out with Jonny that he should do a long one to start.
Well, it's one of those things that I kind of knew, but also it's kind of so out there. That
So yeah, Jonny was man 1 and went 2 1/4, and the plan was to go 2, and we got what, half.
Well, it's quite a long way down.
But even back then, were you thinking about aerodynamics? Like when you first started, were you then bringing...
I guess that's what you knew best. That's,
exactly
that's your knowledge base that you're bringing to the sport.
So the whole team was pretty much built on Aero, and then...
I wouldn't say we were Aero at that point. I
Not
say we
massively.
were. It was just eyeballed. There was no...
We're still measuring a lot of things. Well, at least
I
was.
love eyeballing Aero stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, that looks
It's
fucking
great.
Aero, and it's not.
I think that was probably spreadsheet Mark 1 at that point.
Yeah, so back at uni, I'd done one of my motorsport simulation models on cycling. So basically, turn a lap time simulator into a cycling simulator, and then you kind of flip that in your head, and you get a CDA calculator. And then from there, we did a little bit, but a lot of it, was eyeball, wing it a bit. Where do we need to be? Where's the UCI limits on length and height and all the other stuff, and obviously push them a bit foam padding helps out.
Love the foam pad.
Yeah, gone well off that. So it's kind of what we knew best, but equally just trying to wing it and see what we could do. And obviously the IP went pretty well, and TP too. It's all pretty
I
decent.
think it's probably worth backtracking that because you did Nationals IP the year before, and I think you came...
It wasn't the year before, it was like 2 years ago I had to go.
No, it was the year before you did that. I remember,
2005.
I remember you having a chat when you were like, you did 4:32 or something. And
33.
I remember talking to you and like your confidence of, all right, next year I'm going to do this. I'm going to put my saddle down 10 centimeters. I'm going to fucking break my shoulders,
Not
literally.
Yeah.
But then I'm going to ride a 420. And then like...
I told Tipper 3 months out what I was going to do. I was like, I'm going to go to Nationals, I'm going to win the IP and the kilo. And he's like, you're not going to win, you're not good enough.
So the team was kind of born out of the fact that you guys had put in really limited preparation due to the circumstances you were in, but kind of a really big excitement about what you could do, given that you had a bit more support.
Yeah,
and a bit more
it's
work
just like
in
that
it.
sort of buzz, isn't it? It's like, wow, we just won this. I remember there's been some members of...
A certain GB coach said,
Yeah.
oh my God, they're celebrating like they won the Olympics. But
the thing
actually,
is,
yeah,
at the
we
time, I
have.
was like, I fucking won.
We won the Olympics!
Well, it's like, I'm never going to win a national title. It's like, I think it
First,
gets,
the biggest race
it gets
you could
demeaned
compete
a
in
bit.
it.
Oh, the
time,
Nationals
isn't
was
it? Yeah.
massive for us.
I remember
yeah.
when I was like back racing in Germany, like the Nationals was the biggest thing for me. For me, winning the Nationals there was like the biggest race I could do at the time.
Until you've done
Did you
it,
win the German national champs?
Yes.
Jesus, don't
You
get me started.
German? I thought you ride for Great Britain.
Multiple German
Obviously, you can
national
switch
champion.
nations.
Yes,
Can
I
you tell us
can.
a bit more about this? How do you go about this?
How'd you do it?
Am I going? Yeah. So back in the days,
You're going a bit red.
am I?
I haven't got a German
No,
accent.
No, one day he came to me. It was about he'd been living here for about 6 years. No, sorry, I'll just say this quick. And then
Okay,
you're-
you go. Yeah.
And he comes into the kitchen and he's like, "Do you think I have lost my accent?"
I didn't say it like this.
And I was like,
Maybe.
yeah, you have, mate. Honestly can't tell you're from Germany.
So my dad was in the British Army, based out in Germany. So I've grown up all my life in Germany. So you don't really have the. Well, I never like thought about riding for GB when I was growing up in Germany, because you don't really get given the option. So when I was 18 and that was my last year, or 17 last year being a junior, then I had the choice, or the option was given to me. Oh, you could ride for GB, and GB team was a massive inspiration for me growing up in Germany, and Chris Hoy was like my hero.
Still is.
Still is. Well, like yeah. So I thought, well, I'd love to ride for them. So
You go down to his house and take rides in his sports cars all the time, don't you?
yeah, I do. I love
Yeah.
it. I love a good sports car.
Nice little Sunday drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got a sports car as well, haven't you?
No, it's not a sports car.
Yeah.
What
Anyway,
do the Germans think about you?
Traitor.
Yeah, definitely.
Traitor.
Yeah, that's
I don't-
Ashton's nickname as well.
So I remember being on the flight home, and just
Home?
I think I've
Germany.
told the story before. I flight home from a race, and that was my last race with Germany. I haven't told anyone, and I've been joking to German riders that are moving. Like, it's a joke. No one would believe it anyways. And I pretty much said, "Oh, you will never succeed if you would go over there and stuff like this." They were pretty harsh to me. And then 2 years later, I won the Olympics. So
We've all done stuff.
Well, now we've taken inspiration from Phil switching nations. Has that actually been a legitimate thought for you guys? I know like Qatar and a few other Middle Eastern nations occasionally take on some dubious nationality switches.
Oh yeah, it's been discussed on many levels from.
Genuinely?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
legitimate. Yeah.
Really?
The biggest issue that actually probably stopped us pursuing is the fact that if we wanted to qualify for this Olympics, we would have had to have switched 12 months ago because of the qualification period, and it wasn't really on our agenda, thoughts, whatever back
so
then.
there's actually talks for all of you boys to switch nation.
Oh, there's been offers, yeah.
Can you mention the
Not
nation?
particularly, no.
Can you mention continents?
I wouldn't even know what
Well, I
continent
mean,
are.
obviously, the People's Republic of Barbados took us in eventually.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, we couldn't switch nations, so we made our own. No, I mean the funny one. Have you heard of Sealand?
like where the big whale jumps?
No,
Sealand?
no.
Like SeaWorld?
That's SeaWorld.
Oh,
Sealand. It's a micronation about 3 miles off the coast of Kent.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Been in contact with them.
Self-declared nation? Or
Well,
just
they've got a football team.
oh, right, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So anyway, there's been a lot of offers.
I think that's a really illustrative example of how you guys like question the narrative, though. It's really interesting to think, like, you know, like, or you know, let's not get into the politics about selection, but like not getting allowed for.
Why not?
Oh, okay, we can later. But like not getting allowed for GB at the moment. But like, I still want to go to the games. I still want to perform. Let's find a micronation off the coast of Kent that will take us.
Yeah, well, literally that was it. It was like we want to go to the games. It's not going to happen in the GB for whatever reasons, and whether we want to go into that or not, it's a whole other story. But yeah, why not?
well, I think it's not just the games. I think it's the one that cracks me the most is that all these nations say it's like, oh, we're bringing, we never have 100% unless it's the world champs, and then, well, the world champs is 95% or whatever they want to say, and then the Olympics is 100%. And it's we just, we're all competitive guys. We want to see how far we can go, how fast we can go. We want to compete against the best guys in the world, and I always feel like, it's always like, yeah, we want a World Cup, but X, Y, and Z weren't here, and so and so. So that's
It's always some caveat. Yeah, you did this, but it's like, well, actually, we just take it to the highest level. We never had a goal when we set up. It was just see how far you can take it. So yeah, year 1 was nationals, year 2 was winning World Cup, and last year we wanted to win the World Cup overall, and we just missed out on that.
came second, damn damage.
Yeah, I know.
So is this something you're actually seriously considering for 2024?
Paris, who knows? Maybe our kids.
Kids on the wheel, Eddie. Jeez.
We'll adopt them.
Oh, right, wow.
Shout out to Jocelyn.
I don't know. 2024. How old are we going to be then? 31, 32.
He's still old enough.
You're probably
How old's Ed? About 50.
Oh yeah,
He's
been
the
a
old
while.
man of the team,
He's
yeah.
34.
Well, the thing is, it's
Mm.
like, yeah, we're old, but then like we haven't been cycling for so long. It's like we've been continually improving.
That is a limiting
Like-
factor. Like, if you have a kid who's been really serious from very young, they'll almost certainly retire a lot earlier than someone who started later, I think.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also the
well, we got
mindset.
slated in the Times. What was it? It was said something like, "Yeah, they may be going well now, but they're not going to peak in August." And it's like, well, actually, if you look at our progression, we're the fastest accelerating team there, and the fastest. Like John's progression since he started cycling, like what?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Well, it was about 2 years ago. His first IP was October 2017,
Yeah, it's not.
and I lapped him,
Okay.
winner.
Nice.
And then casually broke the world record twice.
Don't
last
mention
year.
it anymore, do you?
No.
Sea level water.
See that world record. Yeah, so like clearly we're going in the right direction, and I have every reason to think we'll go a whole lot quicker this
And
winter.
it's making statements on our performances without actually never seeing any of our data. Never
Yeah.
asking to see our data.
And what-
Never.
Yeah. Well, I've seen on Instagram and social media a few times that you actually want to go out and break the world record.
I think it's been said many times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dan
So are
has
you
made some claims.
planning on doing it this year or
It won't be
next
this year, it'll be this season.
this
So
season?
originally we were like, oh, we'll just finish the track season, we'll hop up to altitude and do it. Actually turns out it's not that easy, nor is it that cheap. I think it cost us about £60,000 just to do that one single event, which is pretty outrageous. So then we thought, okay, we'll do it in August because it gives us summer to prepare. But actually trying to break a world record in your first team pursuit of the season is probably not the brightest idea. So yeah, we're moving to the back end of the season, which should probably be late
April.
March, early April, something like that.
It'll be April.
April, yeah.
So I want to dive into the team set up after nationals going well. Was there investment forthcoming, or was it a bit of a kind of scrape the barrel kind of thing to start with?
Proper scraping of the barrel. So
Yeah,
we
we
got
all had credit cards and.
So we got a few examples, because I remember you guys talking about the finances, trying to get to World Cups and things like that.
So we had
How close to the edge are we talking?
We
proper
bombed our
bomb.
budget on Poland.
Yeah,
and
all
then-
of our budget went. So
Yeah.
our total budget for year 1 was £8,000, and we spent £4,000 of that registering with the UCI.
Mm.
So we had £4,000 left to do, well, hopefully 3
Everything.
World Cups and Nationals and all the kit
And
and
class one.
everything. Class 1. Yeah, so obviously it doesn't stretch very far. And we ended up spending all that on round 1 of the World Cup, which did not go very well.
And you got to buy bikes in that as well. And
Yeah, well, we bought all our bikes
Everything,
ourselves,
yeah.
bought all our kit ourselves. Obviously had some sponsors and supporters there, so like shout out Walk Above the Wheels, Pyramid Cycling, Velatech, they all helped us out a lot, Rule 28. So yeah, we had some good supporters year 1, but still spent a lot of cash. I mean, my credit card was maxed out, overdraft was maxed out.
But I guess where you are now is like, I actually think that what you've got as a team is quite an attractive proposition for a lot of sponsors, because it's not just, you know, sticking a label on the front of a skin suit. Like, you guys are involved in the development of making that product to get to the place where you need to be to win.
Yeah, it's not about sponsorship, it's partnerships. It's a
Yeah.
big thing we've always said. That if you work with the company, then at the end of the day, you can end up with the fastest kit possible because they'll support and pay for the development. You get to do all the development you want to do to make the kit that you want to ride. And then at the end of the day, they've got all the data to show for it. You go get the results. You're riding the best, fastest kit that you can design. And they've got all the results that go and show for it.
I think it's
they can
pretty
sell.
like going back to your last podcast you had when people saying the British scene's dying and sponsors aren't going, no one can find them. It's like, well, maybe the sponsorship models got wrong. Like, how many Madison Genesis bikes or Genesis bikes in it? How many Genesis bikes have been sold because of that team? But then if you look around, how many people have got Walker Brother wheels at track races now?
Got 28 socks
Yeah.
everywhere.
Well,
Yeah.
like the pyramid chain rings, like
Yeah, you can't make them quick enough.
you can't make them quick enough. It's the the model that we provide is quite good for sponsors because we are demanding.
When did that model take off though? Because it sounded, obviously it's an 8K budget's quite small to travel as a team, especially when you're given 4K to the UCI. So I guess that there had to be a bit of a, like, was that always the model, or were you kind of setting out thinking, if we need to show our worth here, show that we can partner with brands, show that we can make them quicker, and then go from there? Or was it just kind of basically taking whatever was
Still,
going?
none of our equipment suppliers give us any money.
Mm.
Actually, no, one does now. That's it. It's really small. So we've never brought money in from them because we've always just valued the fact that we want fast kit, and that's all that matters for us. And we'll make ends meet if needs be, because we're not here to make money. None of us on a salary. We're literally surviving off savings or whatever the team can support us with. So yeah, effectively do what we can to just ride bikes quickly, and everything else is secondary for now. It's on pause effectively, whether it's your career, whether it's being with your family, whatever else. Just want to try and do something really cool, really.
Being with your family, it's not like any of you have kids and stuff though, but yeah.
Not yet. Not yet, Dan.
Not yet.
Fuck's sake.
Second shout out to Jocelyn.
I was more talking about John missing his mum, but
Okay.
Shout out to Louise Archibald.
hey Louise.
So I guess one of the other things you guys brought to the scene, which was a bit unusual, besides the kit, was the way that you tried to deal with the physiology of the riders that you had. So you talked a little bit earlier about how Jonny, should have been better off doing the first K to start with. And then you were trying to get Tipper around as well, Jacob Tipper, one of the riders who is on the team, or wasn't?
He's still on the team.
Still on the team. Okay, yeah.
Just about.
Just about.
Sorry, Tipper.
Sorry, mate.
So it's not only that you're. So how did you manage to deal with the physiological kind of limitations of the riders you were dealing with?
This was another one I think that was frowned upon for me putting in the public domain by certain employees of our nation. But anyway, I kind of
The government.
Yeah. How do we do it? Well, I think Medi Cordy brought us some really cool ideas that we'd already kind of jumped on.
We had the long-term strategy. So right after Nationals,
Yeah.
it was, all right, if we're going to do this next year, it was, I'm going to start man one, I'm going to do my turn. Because it's all about, end of the day for us, it's contribution on the front. We don't care about finishing with 4 riders. We don't care about you do X, Y, Z turns. We want to have...
We don't need to finish with 4 riders.
Yeah, exactly. So it's can I produce more laps on the front if I do them in one block than if I do 2 turns? And the answer to that, yes.
So maybe there's a deeper question in here. Is that would you categorize the team pursuit simply as being getting the 3 guys over the 4K as quickly as possible, and that's
simple as that? Yeah, 3 guys as fast as you can, and anything that's in inefficiency in there needs to be sorted out. So changes, inefficiency, that was an absolute massive one. Having a 4th rider sitting in the line burning up their anaerobic tank is an inefficiency. So that's where Jonny's turn came in, that if he sits 2nd, 3rd or 4th wheel, he's burning up his anaerobic tank, which you know is a fixed amount of energy, and he's not making the team go any quicker. So why wouldn't you put him on the front all the time?
So what was the status quo that you're fighting against? Was it the idea that you've got 4 riders, they should all do equal work?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think Tipper says this most with his... we've got a gene pool that's 4-man deep.
4-man deep gene pool, yeah.
Okay.
So traditionally,
Sounds
national
interesting.
governing bodies, they've got this model of we ride team pursuit, you do a 2-lap turn, then you do a 1.5 lap turn, then you do a 1.5 lap turn, then 1.5, so on and so forth. And then they try and find the riders to fit their model. Whereas for us, we had 4 riders, and it's all right, cool. How can we get these 3 people across the finish line as fast as we can. And for us, that involved using me early in the race. So then I'm gone, back in to start off with, I was only doing like 4 laps from.
Yeah, I got 4 laps.
Man one.
I think the longest you got was 6 at London.
Oh, but we changed that to man 2 though.
Yeah, so moving things about.
Mehdi rocked up. He was a friend of Dan's from before, and he's been from rowing.
He was working for the British cycling team at the time.
Yeah, he was a coach, but
revolutionary physiologist. I'll go with.
A great guy.
Nice pun.
Yes, he came up with the idea of putting me at man 2, which was so Dan now goes man 1. He does 1 1/4, and then I do my 1 lap, my 1 spell from man 2. It was an interesting one. The Aussies qualifying for the World Champs, they did something similar. They had their man 3 do a 1. He did 3.5 laps and bailed.
Yeah, but they did it from man 3, which is a bit different.
Yeah, it's a curious
But
one.
I mean, the original reason we did it was actually protecting Tipper. So we did the first World Cup, Poland, and bombed, and obviously blew us all our budget.
That's the Medi method.
Yeah, so the Medi method. So that's a bit different. But I dropped into man 3 because it meant we kept Tipper further back in the line with more draft for longer. So it meant Tipper did a half lap turn after 3K.
Yeah, it's impressive.
So, yeah,
Jacob Tipper has done a
half lap turn.
3:57 team pursuit.
Half lap turn.
That was
8 single half lap
over 4K event
for a whole race.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
And we still finished 4th. We nearly beat the European champs off that. It was pretty outrageous. Second World Cup. So yeah, he had some potential. I remember the first one was great actually when we dropped him because we still went real quick.
That's still one of our best rides. I'd say.
Yeah. Can we touch on maybe the tensions within the team that can come about as a result of having Sully Tipper, but a significantly weaker rider within the lineup? So for instance, like in the lead up to 2016, there was no question that I was the weak rider compared to Phil and Jason. Like I remember at one event, in TSO timing, you can see at what standing each team is at each lap. So it would go like first Phil Hines, first Jason Kenny, 10th Callum Skinner, and overall that would be 6th. Like how did that ever create a tension, or were you totally united in that goal of just kind of moving forward? You still saw value in someone even just doing a half.
Yeah,
it's quite hard because it's like obviously you get frustrations because it's like,
you're trying to do the best you can, but you're making concessions for somebody else in a way. But equally, it was like we have 4 riders. We do not have a choice in the matter. I mean, by that point,
it's like world-class team suitors don't grow on trees.
Yeah. Literally, good comment for that. And we were just like, we need to get 3 across the line. How the hell do we get 2 across the line? And yeah, we rolled him in glitter every which way possible and tried again for the year. I mean,
fair play to him. Manchester World Cup, like the rise he did there, having got dropped, and he was not in a good state after that. You can imagine like your first World Cup, your second ride, we get poor guy, and then to have to do it again the next week. It's like,
oh yeah, no, but that was me as man 3. I'd get dropped in the first round, and somehow we'd scrape a qualification, and I knew I was going to get dropped again. Yeah. And you're doing 750 meters in a team event by yourself, like the entire distance. It's like
I think Tipper actually finished with a Swiss. I think in the
yeah, the best thing.
It sounds like a scene out of Anchorman, and you're like, get back over here.
There's a nice shot. He did turn it around though because he nearly caught the Swiss in Minsk. Yeah. So then he suddenly started training incredibly well. I mean, give it his due, like Mehdi really turned him round into some.
I don't know what Mehdi did to him,
but he definitely pulled out the back. And we went to Minsk, and Tipper didn't ride the gold medal final, but in the bronze medal final, we went 3:56 with Tipper.
Yeah, he did
a 4-lap turn.
4-lap turn.
Really?
Half lap to 4-lap turn.
Yeah.
So he turned himself round. Give him
decent improvement. Yeah. In a weird way, do you actually take? Is there some learnings to take from a rider that is doing everything they can, but physiologically can't pull their weight? I guess I always think like Phil and I have been fortunate enough to win Olympic gold, but I think like a lot of people who haven't made it have in some ways actually got better lessons to tell people, because they've had to come from constant setback, and they've been in there for like let's say Matt Clampton, Andy Tennant, things like that. They've missed 3 Olympic games, and they've stayed in that system and continued pushing. Is that something you maybe take from Tipper a little bit?
No, I'd say
that consistency.
The big one from us from Tipper was the analysis that we actually do of our races after the event. We talk about having me and Dan sat in the flight, like imagine us sat together, Tipper next to us, and we literally wrote down a list of, there's like 37, 40 points on how we can make Tipper faster and like how the team can improve as a whole. I just don't think, having seen governing bodies up close, you guys don't do that.
At least to a ride level where the rider's empowered going, this is how I can improve my performance.
Well,
before
and
it
even if you
weighs
do
1
it, you
week.
actually, and we don't have any red tape to stop it, so we can literally the next day we can say, all right, cool, we're going to do the Medi method. It's going to happen.
Well, no, the bit about maybe where some national federations fall down is that there's a lack of honesty within the team because there might be too many big egos coming in there or something like that. So you guys were all pretty much on a level with that kind of thing. It's like
just being open and honest. Like
So you'd
we'll
be
happily
like-
criticize each other for their flaws.
Yeah.
Like if he does something stupid, I'll call him out for it.
Yeah.
If John,
I would
I
never
go over
do
John's
anything
TT bike before every major competition. I'm like, are you stupid? Do you want to win? Because there's like 10 different things that he's just not done or not thought of. And he's like, well, at least someone's thinking about it.
I mean, if Dan was smart, he would have kept all his aero stuff to himself. Right now, he'd be like 5-time world champion in the IP. He'd be, the glory man. He would have won so many TTs.
Sky
But what he's
contract.
done is he's made Charlie Aero, and then the next year Charlie won, and Charlie joined GB, and now Charlie's world champ, and he's probably going to go to the Olympics. He's probably going to come second.
Third.
Now he's done the exact
Third,
same thing with
fourth.
John.
Well, talking of teammates, that's an interesting point as well. How do you feel about Charlie? So he was one of your leaders, really successful in the team, almost kind of being poached by GB, I guess.
They've killed him off, haven't they? It's a shame.
No, he's doing quite well.
No, I think it's cool. At the end of the day, like we aren't the end goal. We can't sit there and be like, right, Charlie, we'll take you to Tokyo because we can't. So
Yeah.
why would I would not hold a grudge off anybody if like John got pulled up to GB and they're like, yeah, you're in the team pursuit now. Which,
I'd
to
be
be honest,
pretty
he
pissed
should
off
do.
if we didn't do the races this year.
Oh, I'd be annoyed. Don't get me wrong, because it's
If it got in the way of our race program.
Yeah, but
like, it
nonetheless,
doesn't
like
need to.
John has the potential to be there. Like I've seen how both Charlie and John have trained, and I know all their numbers inside out. And
Well, you say that they're different. Like, you couldn't compare.
they are
it.
different
He
athletes completely, but you wouldn't put them in the same spot in a team pursuit.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that I know John should be in that squad for Tokyo,
Mhm.
but he's not been selected because they're too short-sighted to see that a one lap standing start is not actually the defining factor. Because unfortunately, team pursuit's measured at 4K, not 250 meters.
And we've got an expert in 250 meters sitting right here.
Yeah, we
I
have.
don't think John's gone to 20.
Avoiding the controversy as usual. I like it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's talk about. So Poland was a disaster.
Yeah.
Not my words. And then that sounds dodgy. It wasn't anyone else's words. You guys just talked about it here.
It
Just to
was
be clear.
Worst weekend of my life.
But then, and obviously nationals was a massive high. When did the next big kind of tick the box come? When did the next big win come?
Belarus, IPTP gold. Charlie won the IP pretty convincingly. He did 4:12.2.
Charlie punctured in the
Qualifying.
in the qualifying, but in the final of it, he had his the little bit of tape you put over your wheel
Yes.
to cover the valve. Also UCI legal, but whatever. Everyone does it.
It is, yeah. They let
yeah.
some stuff anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, that came off in the final. So like after 3/4 of a lap, he sort of reached down and grabbed it because it was stuck on his fork, picked it up and threw it on the side, and then just carried on going.
As you do.
As you do.
Casual.
And he had his shoes, he had his visor on, he had his helmet.
Oh, no. He normally forgets everything.
He had
So
his phone.
he started qualifying with his team suit gear on, I think, or something
Yeah,
like that.
he's done that.
But
before.
yeah, so that was cool in team suit because we qualified fastest. Tip obviously smashed the rounds and then went in the final and rode 3:56 dead. And it was like the scrappiest
It was
ride.
not a good ride.
You nearly died.
I nearly died.
Harry nearly died. Everyone nearly died. We were just chopping around
We
everywhere.
geared up and we were like, oh, we're going to have to go real fast to win.
Yeah.
So we all geared up like 3 inches.
And the
and
Russians
Charlie
pushed
hadn't
us.
geared up 3
Russians
inches.
really geared up.
So,
You can't
so
see
so
that.
so that must have
Little
felt.
Sphinx.
So to put that into context of what that competition is, like winning nationals is one thing, but by the time you're winning a World Cup, you're beating nations. You're not beating any other kind of team within the UK. You're essentially become world beaters, I guess. World beaters. Did that? I've got 2 questions on that front. First of all, did you expect to kind of be more respected and more, looked upon by the other nations because you've got a good result? That's my first question, actually. I can't remember what the second one was.
Do we expect that? No, definitely didn't expect it. I think.
Or
it's
did you
kind
still
of-
feel like outsiders, even though you
You still
had that
feel like
result?
outsiders. Like we came in
Even
this year
now.
and we still felt like underdogs, and yeah, I definitely do now. But I think the turning point was actually this year in Berlin. There was a big hype up on trackpiss.com.
Yeah.
And they were like, the 4 biggest team pursuit teams are coming along, and it was us, GB, Australia, and Denmark. It was like, where the fuck did we come on the top 4 team pursuit teams? It's mad.
Yeah.
And then we bombed qualifying. But anyway.
We love bombing qualifying. It's our
Yeah,
thing.
we're not good qualifiers. The only good
It's good
qualification
for
is
the
Canada.
documentary though, because like if you win all the way through, people get bored.
Oh, people get sick of that.
Yeah.
Problem
So
is
what
we
we
can
do
never
is
go for bloody gold when you qualify 6th.
That's our strategy
Yeah.
when it comes to the Olympic cycle as well.
Yeah.
You don't want to win the whole time. So I guess that obviously that was amazing to get the first World Cup win in Belarus. But when did it? What's your kind of proudest achievement that this team has brought together so far?
Ooh.
I'd say it's all very rider specific though.
Well, you can split it if you want.
Best achievement or most enjoyable achievement? Because they're kind of different
Best
things.
ride.
You can split that as well.
Best ride. Ooh.
So that's all very
Paris.
different.
Paris
Berlin,
rounds.
Berlin,
I love
no
that. No. See, it's all, So John did an outrageous one in Berlin where he did 5.5 laps on 13.9s, which at the time was world record pace.
Yeah, it's pretty
And
impressive.
just
I had a
destroyed
good
us
day.
all. Like, we
I
all
had
blew our
great
doors
morale.
off.
I almost had an asthma attack right afterwards.
Well,
like
sounds
legit,
like it was warranted almost.
Yeah, Ashton did his best to hold on to that pace, and after that, me and John were just
you should,
suffering. like
Ashton's
dogs.
face, because obviously he'd been in USA land, and like they're doing like 4 or 5s.
Oh,
And
right.
then like his first team pursuit was like
3:54. Like, and it was like, for them, it's a national record by like 5 seconds or something. Like, they'd barely just gone sub 4, and then he just rode a 54.
he was also
for fun.
doing this like on the blue.
Yeah, he doesn't go near the black ever. Best ride for me was
Paris round.
Yeah, so qualifying went real bad. I was real pissed off because I didn't get to full gas it. And I was still going to man 4 rather than man 3, so I was super fresh and doing the last kilo and did a 56.1.
Can we just
kilo,
clarify
which is
something
great.
for the podcast?
Of course
for the
you can.
viewers. John doesn't leave a gap to rush into.
John
There's a
Archibald.
common misconception in cycling
Unlike
that
one,
John
yeah.
is leaving
Oh,
a
with the
gap
commentators.
to rush into.
Oh, they talk all kinds of shit.
Yeah, John's getting dropped.
Yeah, every single
Legit
time.
getting dropped.
Just about by the right
You have
amount.
to watch it on mute and just put on some music. It's the best way to go about
No,
it. Otherwise you just
Titanic.
get annoyed.
Watch
Titanic.
Poland.
Watch
listening to
Titanic.
That exists somewhere, definitely. Most enjoyable ride? That's a good question.
I think it's the nationals ones. I think the first time we won nationals was probably
because
the
it was
best
such a
one.
shock. Yeah, go with
It
that.
was like wow.
Yeah, and then we bombed obviously the second year with the whole magnet saga because people need speed data. Don't know why.
I think the I wouldn't pinpoint a single moment, but it's just end of the day we've had 3 years now of
It's
living
the
with our
journey.
friends and
journey.
just
The
having fun
journey.
together. We've all grown as people.
Oh,
Yeah, there's been some mint rides. I really like my IP in Switzerland this year, even though I pulled up a lap early. So
Oh,
I
that
rode
was fun.
3:59 for 4K.
that's amazing.
The week
Yeah.
guy rang the bell. You should have seen his face. He was also devastated.
That was the best pursuit I've ever ridden, and they rang the bell a lap early. I'm not happy.
So I think it's generally considered that Huub Wattbike coming onto the scene has been really positive for the sport. I think it's made people question a lot of things. It's turned things upside down. It's put a lot of people on edge as well.
It's got a lot more people at Aero, hasn't it? A lot more people are focusing on
Yeah,
aerodynamics.
Oh, man,
it's-
if people don't say that we've had an effect, it's like
Oh yeah, I think that has had a
sales
massive
of
effect.
POC helmets have gone
Yeah.
through the roof.
Well,
But
no,
speaking
the
of which,
old
if you
POC
would
helmets.
like to buy
Yeah.
a POC temper, we own
They're now at £1,000.
£1,000 each.
We have all the stock in the world, so they're ours.
Really? Oh, fair enough. Fair
Got by
enough.
30.
Well, they must be either. Apparently,
Nobody
About
knows.
£1,000.
nobody knows. Nobody
Find out
knows.
for £1,000.
Yeah,
Let's test.
You must be devastated if you buy one of these. Not yet.
but you guys had some pretty like low moments as well. Like not just with Belarus, but also like your house got broken into twice, and all your kit got
3
stolen.
times.
3 times.
3 times. Sorry,
3 times. Yeah.
3 times. Not
Just
so
before
lucky.
Belarus.
Year one.
During
Trying to do the
Belarus.
POC helmets.
No, they
Oh,
didn't.
we went back there.
There was nothing in there.
Oh, that's the old school story. Yeah, we should probably tell them that one.
What, the first break-in?
Yeah. Well, no, like how we got the house and stuff.
Because it means well.
Oh, yeah, do you know how we got that out? So we lived in a
yeah.
2-bedroom house, 4 of us. Tipper lived in the lounge. We put a curtain up down the middle. The landlord did not like that.
The room that Charlie Tanfield lived in before we bought that. The man who lived in the house had been sectioned under the Mental Health Act, and he kept 2 dogs in that little tiny room for 2 years.
Jeez.
They had to replace all of the boards in the room.
And Charlie's head and feet touched both. So the room was that small. When he slept, he was at both sides.
Yeah.
But the
Had to sleep diagonal.
The room kept going mouldy, and he had
Oh,
no
no.
idea why.
Yeah, that was a bit mad, that place. But yeah, we got broken into literally like 6 p.m. one evening on the way back from a track session. We're all
Yeah,
knackered and literally end up chasing these guys through the park around the back of our house, and they stole.
Oh, you
my
managed to
bike
chase
the-
them.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Jacob
One of them.
Tipper is a Dudley upbringing. He was right in there.
Yeah, he saw them. So anyway, they nicked that, and they probably looked in there, saw like lots of weird stuff. So there's lots of clear plastic bags in there, like little Ziploc ones. There was all my ultrasonic baths for cleaning chains and waxing chains, and then Charlie had bought loads of plaster of Paris because he was making his own shoes, so he'd mould it. So all he saw was clear jiffy bags, white powder,
Charlie was
lots of
making his own
machines.
shoes.
Did he
Charlie's
manage
making
to
his
make
own
That
any?
sounds like a disaster
got
from
halfway
the
there.
beginning.
Have you seen how expensive this carbon shoes are? It's like the Tanfield option is.
This guy can't get through like a normal day of life. Like how can he?
How does he make his own shoes?
How can he make his own shoes? Out of
He's well
carbon?
keen.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, so they thought that. We went away. Oh, plus my black Audi at the front. They're probably like, yep, drug dealers. So we came back. The whole house had been turned upside down, but nothing got stolen, which is really weird. The second break in this is.
UCI.
It
Looking
could have
for
been that,
data.
Looking for data.
Yeah.
Just came in and measured our
Was it UCI
handlebars.
Oh yeah, that was the
Confiscated the
that was
foam pads.
Too much foam. And then the third one, we got back from Commie Games and we were going to some like breakfast thing in Derby with Mark in Derby about
yeah,
say
that
how
day,
great
yeah.
Derby was for athletes. And 5 a.m. in the morning, brick through the window. Johnny's bike got nicked. And that was that. And yeah, it's,
And you started to move.
yeah.
But that has pretty big implications. Like you're talking about a really small budget. You're buying your own kit. You guys aren't working, and like that's got to knock you.
Oh yeah, we each had a bike nicked, and they're not cheap, are they? At the end of the day. So for me, I had no training bike. I went to Belarus World Cup and warmed up on Tipper's time trial bike because I didn't have one.
Yeah,
Did you have house insurance?
No,
No.
couldn't afford it.
Literally.
Yeah.
Are we able to tell the story about how you managed to get so many people into one house in the first place?
Yeah, that's quite an interesting one. Go, Johnny.
So obviously, HMO licenses is what you require if you want to have.
Multiple shared occupancy.
There we go.
Yeah. Needs like locked doors,
Locked doors, fire
swatch.
doors, and all that stuff. But basically, it makes renting quite expensive. So me and Dan put our best kit on.
Oh yeah. So if you're related or engaged to somebody, then the multiple shared occupancy doesn't actually count. So effectively, if you're brother and sister, man and wife, man and man, then you
Pig
can
and whale.
rent a property that's not under HMO, and it's a whole lot cheaper.
It was
So,
very much don't ask any questions, and we will tell you no
Tell
lies.
So me and John
Well, I
went
mean,
hand
I
in
was-
hand to the local estate agent and got ourselves a nice house.
I always think it goes like, if anyone ever questions that, you can just go, "How dare you? How very dare you question
And then
my
get stuck into Johnny.
my honour?" And all of a sudden,
embarrassed about me?
all of a sudden, they've got a 1-star Google review, and that's the end of it. But I like that. It's that creativism that you guys
It's that
kind of
creatism
brought.
to break the
Creativism.
law.
That's not even a word. Creativity that you brought to the scene, I guess. But no, you have to bend the rules, I guess. But I guess bending the rules and
Break the
seeing
rules.
where we can get in a little bit, is that also been a little kind of mantra of you guys as well? Because I think in track cycling, there's always an element of pushing the rules to the absolute limit and going over it sometimes. I think the test mark is also if the commissary notices or not. Like, we're not talking about motors or anything like that. We're talking about like bits of tape here, bits of modification there.
Love
You
a
guys
bit of
are
tape.
you guys love a Dremel.
We
Yeah.
love Dremels, but everyone else has hacksaws. It's like, come on, guys, you've got a
Just do
budget
this
of
a lot quicker.
how many
it's easier.
million quid? Just get yourself a Dremel.
Well, we are sponsored by Black and Decker.
what do you drill into your bike? Every time I look on Instagram, you're like drilling into your bike. Like, what do you actually do?
Legalising.
Legalize it.
How many modes have you got in that
Mostly
bike?
extensions, to be honest.
I think
Like,
that the
end of day,
best
it's Dremel to
story
the
is
limit.
the Harry Tanfield at Belarus story with the foam pads. So it's obviously the rule is 10 centimeters from the top of the foam pads.
Used to be. It's now
Used
changed.
to be. It's all changed.
Mm.
Top of the pad to the top of the extension, 10 centimeters. So what you do is you set it up at about 13 centimeters. You give it to the jig, and they're like, "Oh, it doesn't fit." You go back. You get another 1 centimeter bit of foam. Whack it on top. You go back to the jig. 2 centimeters.
And literally repeat. So
And
you
literally repeat.
had about 40 mil, 45 mil of foam there, and it was in lots of little pieces. It wasn't even like solid pieces. He just got like bits of tape.
Oh jeez.
Built this up until it was
Sandwich.
UCI legal. A massive sandwich.
And the poor little commissaire is
Yeah.
like, "That's quite clearly cheating." But the thing is,
There's no
there's
regulation
no
against
regulation against us.
Oh, right.
But
So
it's that
They were taking photos of everything, measuring
Yeah.
everything, and then 2 weeks after Belarus, they brought regulation out that said single piece of foam. What else is it? Measure from the middle of the
middle
pad.
of pad.
So then we just started doing other things like armrests further up the arm, chopping the extension horizontal.
But it's
Oh, you're not allowed to
can
chop
view it-
things.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, you are.
Are you?
BC do.
BC do.
Well, no, but that doesn't mean it's allowed.
Yeah.
No, everyone has to cut their extension. Every single extension on every single pursuit bike has been cut at some point.
Okay.
I make my extensions, so I cut them. I'm the manufacturer. That's how they come.
Okay. There's a lot to be said for being your own
We actually
manufacturer of
sell
your
our
own
stuff
stuff.
that we
Is this
use
another
as well.
plug? Do you want to talk about Via Coco while we're here, before we take the next break anyway?
Well, I'm a bit
Sponsored by
thirsty,
Via
so
Coco.
it's,
Yeah.
I'll make sure I give it a good shake first, though.
delicious and nutritious.
It's not quite the same.
But what's more, it tastes great. Anyway,
Johnny's actually bathed in it. That's not a joke.
That's not a joke. Yeah. I love the stuff.
are you guys doing any product development with these guys, or is this
I fucking wish
We actually did when we went down there. Yeah, we went down and were you there for that one?
I wasn't
We
there.
did loads of
didn't
tasting
invite
of
me.
everything. Oh, some of the stuff they got in development, outrageous.
They've got a really
So-
nice the pineapple one I enjoyed greatly. But the thing is the pressed is the new I actually believe
I actually press one is so nice. They do it in liter thing. You just take them, and you just down it. Amazing.
so basically like the original coconut water.
God, here we go.
That's
Let's go on a journey through the history of coconut water. Right, okay, well, if for the sake of balance,
It's
I
a-
work for Science and Sport. They make some amazing
yeah, but
products
it's not,
as well.
It's not pressed.
We all done stuff.
So I thought to round up the kind of the good bits of what you guys have brought to sport. I think an interesting point that Johnny raised in the car on the way over here was that you guys, and I kind of agree with this point as well, kind of embody the amateurism and the pursuit of the sport for the love of it, I guess. Would you care to like talk about that a little bit more? Because obviously Olympics, it kind of still has this image a little bit of, you know, because even I'll be talking to people at events and stuff, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, but what do you do for a day job?" And they don't understand that Olympics has gone properly professional now. Same as Paralympics in the UK as well. So would you like to talk a little bit more about that point, Johnny?
Yeah, I suppose it sort of originates in that we've got nothing coming to us. We're not getting a salary. We're not getting any bonuses. We're not getting anything. We are literally here because we've got a once in a lifetime opportunity to ride our bikes real fast. And I think that it's a throwback to Bannister and all
The good old days.
the good old days.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think
Tech
it's
twist.
the level of personal involvement is much higher, I'd say, because it's whether it's we're planning how we get to the races, which races, what training we do. We are solely responsible to everything.
Yeah,
we do.
everything, whether it's logistics, sponsorship, social media,
Yeah.
training plans, science, nerdy stuff.
Mm.
Basically, everything's kept within the riders. I mean, we've got a manager at the moment who's been doing a bit with Adam. He's kind of taken a lot of logistical nightmare off our back this year, which has been helpful. But from day one, the whole idea was just do it ourselves, and why not? At the end of the day, it means you're involved in every step of the process. You understand why you're doing stuff, and you buy into it that way, rather than being expected that you're going to have the best hotel and the best flights and whatever else, even though the budget doesn't allow it. Just
We
'cause
don't have the best
someone does it.
flights. But anyway, or the best hotels from T-Town.
What's it? Everything about
Anyway, but yeah.
cycling should be
Yeah.
about enjoyment, right?
Yeah,
Everyone's in it for
yeah.
the enjoyment of it, and yeah.
But
okay.
do you see that as a positive element then? Do you think if the team was almost more professional that you wouldn't have the kind of culture that you have now?
I think I've seen it in when I work with professional teams that the enjoyment isn't there to the same extent, and we see it in track centre.
I just don't get it. People talk about the grind of being a cyclist. I've never woken up and oh no, I've got to ride my bike in the sun again. It's damn it.
Up the
It's like,
Barbados,
oh
Miguel,
no,
yeah.
yeah. It's like
I guess for the sake of balance, which we're trying to have more of in this podcast, I think the bit is like when you're paid by someone else to do something, for a lot of riders that can take the enjoyment out of it a bit because you're expected to get the result. You want to return that investment. So in a way, kind of doing it for yourself maybe takes that pressure off a tad slightly, but obviously athletes are the harshest critics, but then also ups that enjoyment.
yeah. I mean, the self-motivation for us, obviously, because we don't have I think a big thing that's a benefit for us is we set our own training programs for our personal stuff. So it's like, and I have no control over what Dan does, no control over what John does, but I have to trust.
For better or worse.
better or worse.
Well, that doesn't mean we don't criticise each other
Don't
for what they're trying to do. Like,
Yeah,
everyone
yeah.
knows what everyone's doing and how they're doing it, and why they're doing it.
But at the end of the day, we're going to go to Minsk, and I've got to be on that start line as fast as in a good a condition as I can. And you've got to have trust in everyone that they're also going to be doing the same level of
Do
investment.
you not try and get advice from physiologists or
Oh
whatever?
yeah, we've got multiple.
Yeah,
They
they help you ride.
We've got a
through
few
them.
advisors.
Medicordia. We've got lots of
Yeah.
people that help us.
Yeah, yeah.
But ultimately, we're the ones that make the choice. I mean, for the actual track, that's individual outside of the track.
Yeah,
And then obviously for the sort of track stuff, obviously it's
it's a team.
these are the track sessions.
Well, it's the same
Yeah.
for pretty much everything that we do, whether it's like what you eat, what you drink,
Mm.
how you train, where you even down to if you want to go on an adventure for a weekend, whatever, it's your decision. Like you're here off your own volition, and if you want to do something, then that's up to you. As long as you think that's the best thing for you to do,
Mm.
and that's going to get you to the start line as fast as you can, then who am I to complain about that?
But I can imagine if it was if I had on my training program, I've got to do X, Y, and Z, and I can't be asked to do that. Like, why am I being set to do this? Obviously, I can understand not enjoying it that way, but I mean, surely, all right, if the athlete's not enjoying that, have a word with the coach, and the coach will be like, all right, cool, what else can we do that, because obviously morale is such an important thing in sport.
It's
And I think
underrated
it's-
in sport, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we've gone through all the positive points that the team has brought to the sport. I think that's kind of quite universal, even for the guys that maybe feel the stress of it sometimes. So like, you know, even Ed Clancy, a lot of the Team GB boys like will say that you guys have done a great thing for the sport, brought it on in leaps and bounds, brought some new creativity to it in the same way that, you know, arguably that we've seen from the likes of Boardman and Obley in the past. So how disappointing is it that the UCI quite recently haven't probably picked up on that enthusiasm as much, because they've put on a new rule to say that from next year the competitions like we were talking about earlier with Minsk, Paris, all that kind of stuff, they're for nations only, they're not for commercial teams. So you guys won't have a place in the track scene from that point going forward.
Oh yeah, they kill us basically, and that's pretty much what the announcement was, and they didn't involve us at any step. As far as I can see though, basically no nations are involved bar a few that are on the track commission. So GB didn't know, Denmark didn't know, Australia didn't know, Holland didn't know, Canada didn't know. Everyone that was spoken to didn't know.
What do you think the motivation is behind it then?
Depends. There's multiple different changes. There's not just one thing. So, for example, moving it to the summer, I can see why they've done it and made it 3 races. Not all the World Cups are that well attended. It's typically the first 2 or 3, 4 maybe at a push that are. So making it 3 means they have to attend. Moving it to the summer, obviously they want to align the world champs. So I can see the logic behind that. I totally disagree with it because it'd be stupid. You're going to kill the sport off for the fact you're clashing with the 2 biggest Grand Tours and making
There's only so much TV you can watch. Like,
yeah, they're idiots.
Am I going to watch?
You can barely keep abreast of what's happening in Tour de France. Imagine trying to watch Tour de France and the Track World Cup
and the
fact
Mountain
that
World
you
Cup.
can't share riders. Suddenly, Mark Cavendish, Ella Viviani, like God knows how many of the track riders who do both.
Well,
You can't do both.
There's more of an
Most of the
impact on the
girls.
women's scene.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all of them.
Yeah, but it just kill off one or the other. And at the end of the day, where's all the money, support, etc. At the moment, it's on the road. It's not on the track. So the track's going to die for that. And then the stupid one is obviously excluding us from what is now the Nations Cup. There is no logical reason that the Nations Cup can't be a
It's
World
us
Cup.
as well as, you know, Team B, even Team
Well,
Inspire.
Yeah, I think it would kill a
It's-
lot of the young guys off like the development, because we used to get rides for Team Inspire if he didn't
Right.
make the 18.
you went straight to the top.
yeah,
every time.
yeah, but the younger guys, they can ride for Team Inspired when the World Cup isn't attended, and then
Wales cycling as well.
yeah,
Wales
Scotland
cycling.
I think a
cycling,
lot of
isn't
the younger guys will really miss out on it and will fear the consequences because the faster guys, the big guys, have to
Yeah.
race the World Cups.
Also, to put that into
Yeah.
context, you've got so in the GB setup, we also had team. When I was there, it was 100% me. You had Team Breeze as well, and they
Team
were
Inspire now.
and Team Inspire. They were all pretty much filled out by the younger riders because they didn't really have a look in to get into the A team, the GB team. So that's why the kind of trade team system had a really good benefit to the track scene, I guess, especially because as we were talking about earlier, they're not always that well attended. To cut the numbers,
Yeah,
doesn't
Wedge
make much
Cycling
sense.
was trying to build up a team pursuit right now, and they will be missing out on it. So
Well, they've still got this season.
Yeah,
This season, yeah.
Post Tokyo it changes. So yeah, there's just a lot of changes that seem a bit backwards, and they're proposing this new series throughout the winter, which supposedly, anyway, is to try and increase fan engagement. But if you actually look at who drives fan engagement at the current World Cups, it's all the trade teams because that's their interest. That's where we are commercial teams. We are supported because companies want to partner with us, whether it's to sell stuff to the public, whether it's to sell stuff to the cycling trade, whatever. We are there because we're a commercial outfit.
Yeah.
Whereas why would any national governing body take you as an athlete and say, right, Phil, up in the stands after your race, you've got to go and sign a load of autographs to Joe Public. We actually pushed for that at London World Cup. I mean, we didn't even get it, which is a whole other thing. But we were, if anything, it's quite enjoyable to go and talk to people and see what their experiences are of the sport. But it just doesn't seem to happen at a national governing body level.
But that's a really interesting contrast because, like, a few moments ago, we were like kind of idolizing the amateur days and the pursuit of purism of the sport. But what we're kind of trying to face now is basically a bit of a halfway house. It's like you guys are happy to do the professional element as well as doing the amateur element to it as well. And, you know, arguably that's for the betterment of the sport going forward. And the same with like trying to shake up the sponsorship model to be more of a partnership.
Yeah, exactly that. You've got to have money coming into the sport some way, and that's the way the sport's going to grow. And I think Lepatier seems backwards in that sense that he's trying to take money out of the sport and push all the control back to nations. And unfortunately, nations are what votes with the UCI. So Lepatier's in because nations voted for him, not because trade teams. But where's all the technical development coming from in the commercial domain, in the public domain? So if you want to go and buy a fast skin suit, you aren't going to be able, within reason anyway, you can't now go and buy the fastest suit the GB have or whoever else, except in a 4-year cycle with the new regulations. Whereas our skin suit, go down the shop, you can buy our wheels, our frame, our socks, whatever you want, you can go and buy because we're pushing that development. So within the sport, that's where the money's come from, is the commercial side.
have you had any response from the UCI saying why
Not
this
even
happened?
acknowledged our email.
Yeah, because the team wrote a letter, didn't they?
Yeah, big letter. That took my whole weekend.
And Beat have done it as well.
Yeah, Beat did the same. They've got an outrageous amount of signatures, like tens of thousands now. It's pretty mental. But yeah, not even an acknowledgement to our letters, neither of us. And we've got a working group with all the trade teams in the world, basically just a big Google page, and just discussing what we want from the World Cup, from track.
I guess that was a good shout out for me anyway. It's a little bit better than Via Coco was get on the Beat page and add your name to it if you haven't done already, because I think it's not for the betterment of the sport, it's to the detriment of it.
Yeah, they are going to kill it off if this goes through.
But what does that mean for you two as individuals? Because obviously we've touched on the controversies of selection a little bit for the national teams. Does that mean track racing for you guys pretty much becomes unsustainable?
Yeah, it's game over.
Yeah,
it's not really like a plan B. There's not unless we want to go race class 1s, class 2s. It's probably quite
there's
boring.
no money in class 1, class 2s.
It's not even the money. I mean, there's no money.
Well, no,
We've
but
never
I mean
money,
from the commercial support.
side, the exposure's not there, and nor's the competition. We go to class 1s and take the top 3 spots in the IP, and it's just not
It's
competitive.
like Switzerland's our Christmas treat for
Yeah,
fun.
it's a bit of fun, but it's not the level of World Cup. You don't have the drive to try and compete at that level, because we could turn up to the class 2s and class 1s and in team suit and IP be on the podium without, it sounds bad in a way, without pushing.
Yeah.
Whereas if we want to win a World Cup now, we've got to beat Australia, GB, Denmark, Italy, France, all the top nations. And now having to sit there and we're doing so much development on everything because we know we need to, else we don't have a chance.
So what's the kind of takeaway, I guess, from that point as well? Because it's, we went back to that page earlier and it said that you guys were in the top 14 pursuit teams in the world pretty much. But only one of you guys has moved on to being in the GB setup. And obviously that would be if the rule doesn't change, that's an avenue which arguably for most people who don't know the full story would be pushing for as well. So why is that a door that you see as being quite closed to both of you, I guess?
Originally I thought it was quite closed, then I felt it was a little bit open. Obviously myself and Charlie got in there as a trial back at, early 2018, and honestly did not enjoy it there. Probably mentally in the worst place I've been, performance wise the same. Didn't work for me, definitely not. Didn't enjoy it there. Too many reasons for not doing things.
Was that to an extent, was that because they weren't really interested in what you brought to the team from an aerodynamicist or an engineer's point of view? They were more interested in just using you as a physical asset, I guess. And you weren't able to you weren't able to engage in that setup as much as you have done in this team.
Yeah, probably that. I wasn't able to engage, wasn't able to ask those questions and try and stimulate growth within that. It was, you do it this way and that's it, and don't ask any questions. And even if you've got any bright ideas of doing stuff differently that may make you go faster, didn't want to hear about it. And I found that really frustrating, because right now we have the power to do whatever the hell we want, as long as for the right reasons and we all agree with it. Whereas there, it was you do just hold and that's that, and I just didn't enjoy it.
So as much as the doors was closed, was open a little bit and now is closed, is that, if the rule doesn't change, is that going to be a door you're going to be knocking on again, or do you think it's just not a kind of life for you, I guess?
Well, I guess we don't have the platform to prove that we're viable.
Well, for this season you do, yeah.
Do for that, and then and Tokyo happens, and everyone forgets about what happened in the previous World Cup, and then suddenly Dan, John, Johnny, etc. We're all nobodies because we can't compete on the world stage, and you has-beens because you only rode a 350 whatever back in 2019, 2020, and now it's 2020, 21, and we've got X, Y, and Z coming up from the academy that they're more viable prospects. So suddenly you don't have a stage to stand on or a soapbox to scream on.
And I think the problem is there's it's quite hard they currently don't have a means of, how do you compare our apples with your apples? We've got a way of riding team suit, and you've got a different way. So it's how do you integrate? So me, for example, how would I be integrated into GB? If they wanted to do that, they'd have to completely change the way they ride team suit, and have always ridden team suit, and adopt the sort of Huub style of doing one turn and go.
Yeah.
Which is obviously like a drastic change. It's like, how do you test that in training? There's no sort of mechanism in place to actually do that, which it's
something we've discussed. I've had meetings with Sparky, Paul Barrett, and discussed it at length there. But to be honest, they didn't really go beyond that.
I just not interested.
It's what they wanted in return from it. There was they wanted a lot of what we had.
Yeah,
I guess would be a way of describing it from an intellectual property perspective, in return for the possibility of a trial if they said we were viable prospects from all the data that we'd have to hand over. And for me, that's my job. That's my career. I'm, as an engineer and aerodynamicist, what I know is what I sell on to people, and to effectively pass that over for free is asking a lot.
A bit wrong, but it's even, there's no sort of like a lot of other nations, we'll take the team Beat in the Netherlands. Obviously they've got, they've been 1 and 2 in team sprint at World Cups, in Canada as well. And they obviously have a solid trial based system where the man ones do 2 laps or whatever, and man 2 and 3s do something else. They actually have, if you want to race at Worlds, this is the day you compete in the fastest go. But there's no such thing for team suiting, bro.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
A
spring is easier to select in teams from because it's black and white. You do the fastest lap you can do. Like one has to do the fastest lap, 2 fastest lap, and then 3. But team pursuit is more like riding as a team, isn't it?
But then it's mechanisms to qualify are there for other nations, but there's nothing for us.
But yeah, it's quite interesting.
I don't see why we can't, just be like, all right, cool. So every 2 weeks, Huub are going to come and share the session with us. They're not going to do anything with us, but they're going to be there, and it allows the coaches to view us in training. Like, why can't that sort of system take place?
And it's an ask for us to head up 2 hours each way for that, but
we would do it for the opportunity to show our faces.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? But I mean, from a performance perspective, you look at like the fastest kilos, the fastest pursuits. We've got that, and then team pursuit wise, we're there or thereabouts, and there's probably a whole lot more we could work on. But they're just not really interested.
I'm not sure if we start to overcomplicate it with selection a little bit, because even within you say team sprint's easy to select, but it's in a lot of ways it's not, because it depends on the speed you're led in, it depends on what's going on here and all that kind of stuff.
It's very dynamic. Yeah,
it's really interesting that we have the most measurable sport in the world, but it's also still left to quite a few subjective decisions when it comes to selection.
I think you could quite objectively build a fastest team pursuit team if you're willing to. But the problem is someone's got to undertake that as a project, and we've definitely got the software to do it. But we need every other rider's lots of performance data to then say, well, you are capable of X, Y, and Z, and if you slot into the team, this is how you would perform. And you could effectively have 10 riders, fire them all into a computer program. It'll tell you the fastest team, how to ride it. And that's doable right now. That's not even like a pipe dream. That is what we have and how we can do it. But they're not interested. And
I mean, so that's the sort of performance element. And then they always when you fill in your application form for Worlds, you guys don't do it, but it's got there's a nice little button that says how will the rider integrate into the squad, which I think is quite a tricky one for us, because obviously our existence based on us doing interviews and shouting as loud as we can and being as controversial as we can, because that gets interviews. That gets the attention, the exposure that we need. But it's obviously like, how do you compare how these riders would behave in our culture into a completely different team culture? It's like we're sort of like completely written off. So there's no way of like, if you had this bi-weekly session, you'd be like, oh, well, you know what? This guy's actually really professional, or like, like he's
see
stood
Jonny
up in a few interviews.
For example, they say Johnny's disruptive or whatever else, but actually we're just having good fun in track centre, and that's our team environment. That's how our team functions, but it's different to theirs. That's not to say that Johnny couldn't fit in that environment and perform, but they just
and it's
see
like,
oh,
Johnny's taking the piss on the the start ramp. It's like, well, yeah, he's doing that because I know, like John, or if it's Charlie, you get so stressed for the race. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the piss to distract them from the race. They're actually going to perform better.
The problem
but
is
they don't see that
from the outside, and that's that. And
no, but that does actually happen within the team as well. Like, there's a lot of riders who get a bit too angsty and a bit too stressed. Like, we used to take the piss out of Joe Truman because he'd listened to heavy metal for about 6 days before his event, getting pumped continuously all the way along.
Was Jack Carl in Manchester World Cup said, "Oh, Joe, your dad's in the stand over there." Yeah. He lost the plot. He said, "Don't tell me where my dad sits."
So like, there's that element of like joking around and all that kind of stuff to try and diffuse the situation. Like, it's interesting that you think that wouldn't be something that would fit in, and maybe that's the more subjective element of having more FaceTime, is that you realise it might.
But then the same as well, they say, what was it they called me? Disruptive?
Daniel, you need to decide if you're an engineer or if you're an athlete.
Yeah, I got told that. I'm not allowed to be an engineer because I answer questions honestly, and that's not allowed.
So it's that disruptive nature. It's it's I think Rider X asked Dan, which helmet shall I use? And it's like, well,
instead of just saying
no, don't ask. It's like what's Dan supposed to do in that scenario? Like bury his head under the stand. He's like, well, you know what? Actually, I reckon you should use this. This is X, Y, Z reason why you should use it.
And here's all the logic and physics and maths.
Yeah. So it's not you should use this because these are bad and yada yada. It's a he wants the squad to go faster. He's like, I think this could be a faster helmet on you, mate, which would make the team go faster.
It's interesting though, because I kind of feel like the methodology that you guys have set out with and started in terms of questioning everything is actually really similar to the culture that GB found itself in 2008 and things like that, in terms of questioning everything, turning everything upside down, making their own kit, or at least finding the fastest out there. So it seems a bit weird that there seems to be a perceived kind of divide, I guess, and yeah, I hope that kind of moves forward in the future, I guess, especially if the race opportunities for you guys are kind of drying up, I guess.
Yeah, it needs to. If not, yeah, we're done for. And to be honest, if they've lost that mentality, then they've probably done for as well. Adapt or die, and every other
Unlucky
nation can
Phil.
catch up. Yeah, well, the maths.
Well, I mean,
and the
it's
physics.
end of the day, it's upsetting. We talk like one of the reasons that I'm still here, not to bring it down, is because the team existed and they brought me out of a really unhappy time. Suddenly, the team's going to go in 15 months. It's like, well, I'm going to have to A, try and get on GB, or B, find something else that's going to
keep him engaged.
keep me engaged.
I think the UCI just needs to overturn the decision, to be honest. I think this
I can't see it
the
happening.
easiest
As
Can't
far
see
as
it
I've
happening.
heard, there's going to be even more drastic changes coming from September.
Really?
Some quite scary stuff.
Rest in
Allowed to
peace,
say?
Team Suit.
Well,
Yeah, Team Suit going
Team Suit
post-Tokyo.
going, apparently. Because
Really?
the UCI are not happy with the investment that nations are doing into
Too
Team
much
Suit.
cash. Spectators don't like it.
Spectators don't like it, they switch off. And Madison is going to be
But is it just a rumor, or is it come from a-
substantiated. Can't say where, but yeah.
really?
So
I know a guy.
so like I've done my fair bit of fighting against sports ineffectual sports governance, I guess. Is that something that you wish there was a bit more transparency and accountability? Because it sounds like you've just been given the cold shoulder completely.
Oh yeah, like absolutely zero engagement with us on any single level. And the only way I found out was the Times paper rang me on a Thursday evening asking for a quote for a story they're putting out Friday morning about this. So I have no idea what you're even on about. Why was this not mentioned?
It's
Is
not
that
really
not
good
bad
treatment for a
governance?
major stakeholder, I guess, is it?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They don't consider us as a stakeholder. They just think we're disposable. We're the only stakeholders that matter to them are nations, and nations don't want to put their head above the parapet for fear of being shot right now.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a funny world, sports governance is all a bit odd.
political.
No, but it's political. It's political, but without the attention or the accountability, which makes it even more toxic. I think a lot
yeah,
of the time.
it's just all behind closed doors.
Yes.
You don't know what's happening. Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating, but what can we do about it? We're in this situation, and you can have a working group or whatever you want, but if they don't want to engage with you, they don't want to engage. They can just ignore your emails and tell you how it is.
But you've actually diversified a little bit out from the team in terms of helping other teams and doing other bits, and you're on a UCI committee a little bit as well, aren't you?
Well, yeah, working
Technical
with
working group. What would they call it?
Was it the World Federation for Sporting Goods Industry? So
Okay.
effectively working with Mark Barfield, who used to be UCI materials head of, something like that. Fight against technical fraud. Can't remember exactly what his title was, but yeah, effectively trying to work on those kind of regulations. So a lot of the new Olympic rules and trying to push our case forward on why they need to be in a certain way and how they're policed. So things like, I mean, they're bringing in now where everyone's kit has to be publicly available.
I thought
actually-
that was always the rule.
Oh, that's the one that cracks me.
Yeah, have you
It's
seen
like
a
you do-
T5 in the flesh anywhere?
Here's a theoretical scenario for
Not
you.
yet. It's
You can do- you
a
get-
waiting list.
Guys have had their Olympic medals taken away from them for reanalysis of blood samples, and they found new drugs they couldn't test for now. It's like how many years past the Olympics are we now? At what point do you turn around and say
Sorry, Callum.
that medal, and that medal, we're taking it away because you said you were going to sell this stuff, which is the Olympic rule, and you're not. It's like you've quite clearly broken a rule there.
Yeah, why is
Like,
one rule not applied?
why is
the
it not
same as the
applied?
other? So obviously you can't dope, and people find out that you've doped 4, 5,
10
6,
years later,
whatever
and
it
it's
might
like,
be.
oh, hang on, he doped. Get him out.
Get him
Ban
gone.
him.
But yeah,
it's the degree of the infringement, I guess, isn't it? And they probably don't measure that as being enough to.
Well, it goes back
Have that
to
in a
it
sanctuary.
goes,
ban him.
You talk doping, it's all grey area. It's not. It's black and white. The rule
Yeah,
is
yeah.
you have to be able to sell it, and that hasn't been pushed through.
Enforced. Yeah, so I mean that's one of them, and obviously, yeah, we've kind of fighting the case on that to make sure that everyone's on a level playing field going forward. I mean, it's never level, and how the UCI are going to enforce it, I don't know because it's
So Dan's going to be in the track centre at the Olympics with a pair of binoculars
calling everyone out.
and a big list of paper. And he's
Illegal.
going to be like, ban him, ban him, ban him.
Yeah,
Um,
5-year ban, lifetime ban,
Yeah.
illegal chain.
He's going to be having the time of his life. Dan Bingham's Instagram stories.
I've
Zooming
wanted
in
to
on
do
like
this forever. I always want to go to like national champs and call out World Tour riders for using non-approved kit because they're there and their team managements aren't there, so they're like rolling out kit they definitely shouldn't be using. It's like, no, not allowed that.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, on that front, I have been working a bit with World Tour teams. Canyon SRAM, that kicked off.
Yeah, they had a really good result with them.
Yeah, they
the
won
World TTs.
World
Dan
TT
Bingham is the only man to have won the women's team time trial
Yeah, I
championship.
stood
Oh
on
yeah,
the
you're on the
podium.
podium. Yeah.
A normal person, obviously, they got to invite a coach up. So, like, a normal person would have just sort of sat in the background, let the girls take the praise. Dan Bingham, the man he is, centre, trophy aloft, push the girls out the way. Apparently, there's a few injuries.
Rugby tackled, I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, the amount of messages you got about that, people think I took it a bit too seriously. I love that. How many times you get to stand on a world championship podium? Very
Well,
few.
hopefully
Yeah,
a
yeah.
bit more, but
Well, I never have.
That's another
You-
one.
You never have either, have you?
I have, yeah. Came
Well-
second in a team sprint.
Oh, well
he's
done.
not winning it
Yeah.
though. He's the only world champion.
I've
Yeah.
won a female team title, supposedly. But yeah, since then, been doing some work with Jumbo Visma as well. More on simulation modelling, bit of aerodynamic positioning stuff, and that's gone pretty well. Roglic had a great start to the Giro, possibly not the best finish to that, but he was on
well
for-
prepared.
He was well prepared, yeah, definitely. And then Wout van Aert, he's had some outrageous time trials since then, won the national champs, put
Tony
all the
Martin as well?
Campeonatos. Not touched Tony Martin much yet.
Oh, right.
I've had a little chitty chat.
Is that? Are you finding them quite deceptive?
Massively so, yeah. They're
Because
really good.
because I always think that like, track cycling can be fairly traditional, but road cycling is a whole new level of traditional and unwritten rules and all that kind of stuff.
Some mechanics, I want to pull my hair out. Find a good mechanic who'll do what you say, even if he completely thinks you're off your head. Just pay him all the money you can, and we've got that. We've got a great mechanic in Mark Akers, and he's like scratching his head, like
It's
Johnny's
like
going then. Johnny's
All right,
stroking
Mark,
him.
I
Like,
want my
"Look,
wheel completely stripped. I know we're racing in 5 minutes.
I'm
but
really sorry, Mark. But he's like,
I
just
think
stroking-
one of the bearings, one of the balls in one of the bearings might be a bit.
But yeah, mechanics are just like that in the sport because it's always been done this way. I mean, Harry's told us some horror stories inside
Yeah.
Katusha. Like for a time trial, they'll strip a brand new chain of all the lubricant, and they think that's
Yeah,
quicker.
okay.
Or they'll run their tubs at like 10 bar, and it's like you're off your head. I mean, why are you in running tubs? That's another thing.
It's just quite dated and back. It's
stuck in the 80s.
the old like marginal gains is, or is it the small yet significant
The
improvements?
best one. So Harry was at a time trial, KLM tour recently,
Yeah.
a few weeks ago, and he rocked out his Aero skewers, went to put them on his time trial bike, and the time mechanic turns around like, "Oh, they're nice. How many grams do they save?" Like, it's a flat time trial.
Yeah, yeah. Doesn't make
Aero
any difference.
skewers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess like we're going to talk about the comments that came from nationals as well, where some of the Pro Tour riders got a little bit upset with everyone wearing Aero socks and only one number, which I believe is another controversy we're going to talk
Guilty as
about.
charged. Dan Bingham.
Dan Bingham only wearing one number.
Apparently he's
But-
received a 4-year ban.
Take his medals off him. Anyway, who said that?
Didn't get me.
As like a cycling fan, because the passion that you guys have for the sport is immense. Obviously, it's a big discussion in cycling as to whether the whole influence of marginal gains, aerodynamics, is killing the sport or improving it. I can probably preempt where your answer is going to be, but do you think there's a balance, or do you think it's as clear cut as it is improving it?
What are you in the sport for? Are you in the sport because you're like this retro guy who loves cycling, going to the calf, wearing a cap with loads of luft or whatever it is? I don't know. People like style. Are you a cyclist for the style? Or are you a cyclist because you enjoy going out exploring and riding climbs fast, or going to do something that some of the professional cyclists done, you think that's amazing? Or are you a cyclist because you just want to ride bikes really quickly and win races? I mean, people are in it for different reasons, and we're here because we want to ride fast with a load of mates and win cool stuff, and I want to go into a road race and try and win. And there were a lot of things said in the previous podcast that I was just like,
My favourite
So far
statement
on.
was I'm all about marginal gains, but there's a place where you draw a line.
or something like that.
It's
Yeah.
like
I'm all
the
about
same
I'm all for
sentence.
aero gains, but
Okay, so
it's like,
let's talk about some of the comments made last time. So Aero socks in the bunch, do they make a difference? Yes, or no?
massively.
Massive.
So right, if you're 45k an hour, aero sock.
I should warn the listeners. This
It's
is
going to get real boring
this is
real
when it
quick.
gets boring.
Let's try and summarize it in a
Okay,
in a
we'll go
public
as
friendly
quick
way.
as we can. Aero
I
socks.
was happy at yes, but anyway.
We can start a bit simpler. A time trial and road race doesn't matter. Physics are the same. Whether you're riding against a clock, as effectively what a road race is, you're riding against a clock whether it's trying to jump a gap as quick as you can, or as easy as you can, or saving energy, or sprinting as quick as you can. The physics are identical. Okay, you're traveling a little bit slower, and you're in a bunch at points. But if you're riding along by yourself, aero socks probably save you 7 to 10.
Roughly 7 to 10
It's
watts.
roughly speaking. It's
Approximately.
Oddly enough, it is actually roughly 7 to 10 watts that you'll get from a pair of aero socks.
Just love it.
If you're in a bunch, and there's loads of really good studies on what draft efficiency you get in a bunch, you can see anywhere from a 20-30% reduction all the way down to like a 70 or 80% reduction in your aero drag. However, most of that occurs in your body, because that's where pretty much all the disruption in air is happening. Pretty much all of your pressure drag occurs behind your lower back. Around your feet, pretty much nothing. It still seems fairly clean air. So if you're riding in a bunch, you're probably seeing still 4, 5, 6 watts reduction in aero drag all day, every day. You're not wearing aero socks. You're an idiot. In
Ooh.
short. I'm sorry.
Tell us how you really
Call
feel.
it how it is.
Well, I think the
What do-
consensus from the last one was that it's people at Aero, and then they just don't care about race tactics. It's the art of racing.
Well, it's that whole big argument about everyone thinks that before Team Ineos, Team Sky came on the scene, that cycling was all about passion and flair and Italian and French continental kind of style kind of thing. And then those guys came in, just drilled it from the front, and kind of killed the excitement of the race, I guess.
Is that where, I mean, yeah,
Lance
so
Armstrong
Aero
do his
makes it
win.
more aero dominant. So, maybe like that's why it's harder to break away nowadays.
It's probably why you get the more exciting races like the Strada Bianchi and the sort of the classics, the cobbles and stuff. Yeah, the CRR goes through the roof. So obviously you're getting bigger differences. Like yesterday's stage.
No acronyms, please, Jonathan. What were you referring to there?
The what?
CRR.
Coefficient of rolling resistance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
And that's not made it any better.
Basically how grippy your tyres are.
Basically, the
Not
drag
grippy,
that you
draggy your tyres
produce switches to more tyre dominant than aero dominant.
Hold my hand.
So, aerodynamics are a dominating factor in pretty much all. So if you're sitting in a peloton and you're doing 200 watts on average all day, then still about 60 to 70% of your drag, so 120, 140 watts, is going to be aerodynamics. You can ignore it all you want, but you're sitting in a peloton and it doesn't matter, according to some people. It still does. It's huge.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you're trying to bridge a gap, you're trying to get away, you're trying to win a sprint. Aerodynamics is 100% a factor then. If you're
the challenge is, it's like if... we'll call it out Adam Blythe, isn't it? He's saying that, race tactics and sitting on the wheel is where it's at. It's like, all right, then we'll give you all this aero kit, and then you do your race tactics sit on the wheel, and you're going to be so much fresher at the end of the race. You're going to have that marginal gain, and you're going to go, you're going to have a better chance of winning.
And then people are criticising me, saying, "Oh, you're wearing a speed suit and you've got no pockets." Well, why do I need pockets? Like, I'm running Stealth Big Energy, so I've got 100 grams of carbs in every single bottle. I pick 2 bottles up on the way. That's my carbs for the whole race. I don't need to eat. I've got all my hydration there. So I need to carry nothing. I'm a load more aero than some of the guy carrying a load of stuff on his back.
Yeah.
Just people don't think about it.
I think the one pocket was a bit meh. The one number pocket.
I
think it blew off in the neutral. I think it was... So
I guess the final question, which is another major controversy, which relates directly to you, Dan, which the other ones didn't, which was about the one number saga. So basically in every race... You're supposedly, I might be correct on this, but you're supposedly mandated to wear 2 numbers, but you locked up with a single number, and some people took issue with it.
Yeah, they did. They kicked off. Didn't like it.
How many watts do you save with one number?
It varies.
7 to 10 watts.
Honestly, we should talk about the 7 to 10. I mean, it's kind of like caught off with the team in that, like anyone asks like how much you're going to save with that, it's always 7 to 10. But it's always, you just change the velocity you're testing at. So it's like, put a pin on your thing. It's like, we'll test it at 200k an hour. You're going to save 7 to 10 watts.
Yeah. I just want to go back to that and say, like, we got this highest level race. It was 45k an hour average as well at the national champs. It's going to be pan flat and real fast. Aero was the biggest factor there. And we thought about it a lot. Myself and John were like, well, this is going to be hugely aero dominant. Of course you're going to wear a skin suit. Of course you're going to wear aero socks. I took my inner ring off, my front mech off, ran a 1x and put a 60-tooth chain ring on. But no one else took even their front mech off, and no one went near their inner ring the whole race because it was pan flat. But are people actually thinking about that? And that's like massive aerodynamic improvements that World Tour guys whose it's job, they're getting paid 6 figures to ride their bikes quickly, and they're not even bothering to think about these things. But someone has effectively a full.
They probably don't even have the knowledge.
But it's all out there. Like, if you're committed to it, it's
you don't even have to look very far. Just get on Twitter and follow the really smart people. And the thing about really smart people is they love telling you how smart they are. So just listen to what they say. And if you listen to enough smart people, you might get a bit smart yourself.
Rather than just like criticise.
But then keep it to yourself.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you've got like the UK time trial scene. It's absolutely hilariously far ahead in comparison to the World Tour time trial scene. And yet, still the World Tour road races take the mick out of it. But actually, these guys are really, really intelligent, doing really, really smart things to make themselves go faster. And they could learn a thing or two, but instead they just take the mickey.
But so we've heard a lot about your kind of engineering approach and the work you're doing with other teams. And I don't want to bring back this question because it's a bit of a tough one, but I will. There's a staff member that said to you, you can't be an athlete and an engineer at the same time. Pick one. Pick one.
Yeah. I'm a cyclist because I'm an engineer.
Yeah.
And I'm probably an engineer because I enjoy the cycling. They go hand in hand. And at the end of the day, the reason I'm in cycling is I enjoy that nerdy side of stuff. And as Johnny described it, I suck the fun out of cycling one spreadsheet at a time.
I mean, you would have enjoyed the last 20 minutes, but it's like, imagine living with that for 3 years. Those sunny rides that you...
So if you get offered a pro contract now, would you give up your aero consultancy
Sounds like
stuff.
I probably have more time. So now I'd probably ramp it up a bit more on the side.
Right, okay.
If anything, I think if I was getting a Pro Tour deal, then I'd arguably want to get involved more in the Pro Tour team, kind of like I do here, that have that role within the team. Okay, yeah, you're a rider, and I think they try and separate out that a rider should just ride their bike. Well, I would wholly disagree. A rider should be empowered on every single aspect of their performance, that you should know everything about the aero, the engineering, your physiology, your nutrition, your sleep, everything. You should know the science behind it so you can apply it because you know what benefit is. Rather than someone saying, do this, it should be, we're going to teach you why you should do this, and then you'll know to do it yourself. Exact same reason. I think every single athlete should be sitting in a classroom and being taught on these things. They're not, but I'd say that's probably one of the reasons that we're accelerating our growth so quickly, is because Jonny can sit and hold his own about aerodynamics. John can tell you about drivetrain efficiency. Probably not to like a massively high level, but enough that they understand what's occurring and why.
Well, maybe that's a future angle as well. As much as sponsorship has turned from someone giving you money and you putting a label on your jersey, maybe with athletes it's going to come a little bit more as a partnership too going forward, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's definitely happening. You've got people like Silka who get involved with many different World Tour teams, and Josh Portner there is going out and educating athletes on what they need to do and why they need to do it. And that's the biggest thing. If you know why, then you'll buy into the process. But yeah, with World Tour teams, I don't think you could ever separate those two things out.
So we're going to have a final break, and then we're going to have a little 5-minute special with John Archibald, where we're going to ask him the most important question of all, which is
Is
he
his best Tinder match?
Or is he even still on Tinder? Or how's Tinder going? And here's John Archibald.
Hello, guys. Hello.
Terrible accent.
He's gone to bed, apparently.
He has gone to bed. He's a very studious chap, so I'm sure that was worth it. But maybe next time we'll get him on.
Yeah.
Quick thanks to both of you guys for coming on. If you want to do some shout outs to Via Coco again, I think I can sit through 20 seconds of it. Or you can just tell us your Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, follow us on what are we?
At Vita Coco. It's at Huub Wattbike and
Everywhere, I think we're Huub Wattbike.
and you'll see us.
Yeah, Dan Biggles 22 everywhere. No longer Raptor Biggles, Dan Biggles.
Dan Biggles is a good one to follow.
That's way more mature, that is.
Yeah.
If you like controversy, then that's a good account to follow, I must say.
I think a lot of us, to be fair, I think we had good content. The stories especially. I think it's all quite amusing.
Yeah, if you want amusing content.
You'll learn a lot about how to use a Dremel. The
Lots
use of
of
Dremel.
Dremel.
Dremel, yeah, as Phil said.
We're actually sponsored by Black & Decker.
Are you? For next year. Yeah, so thanks very much for coming on. And if you haven't signed up to Beat's petition to change the UCI rules, then also do that as well. And we'll be back next week.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for coming on.
Cheers, guys. Who have you got
Goodbye.
next? Blythe back or?
Blythe, I mean, we have to. Oh, this
It's
is
kind of
gonna
unfair that
offend.
we sort of given the rebuttal and then he's
Can we
not
just have
actually-
one-on-one?
We have a.
We
I'll
could,
do a
I would.
one-on-one.
I would love to try and set up a 1-on-1 actually.
I really want
bring
some
the
of his
party in
aerosols.
as well. We're at it.
La Party, yeah, La Party, Blythe. Who else do you want?
Jesus.
A representative from British Cycling?
Yeah,
Right, okay.
British Cycling representative, please.
We'll bring Mehdi back because he's always fun that
And Mehdi, okay,
Yeah.
so
Just bring
yeah,
them all into one big room.
that'll
All right.
yeah,
Thanks.
that'll be fun. Anyway, okay, thank you.
Bye.